While running for his life in the woods, bullying victim Gyu stumbles upon a shotgun and just enough shells for his classmates. It's a recipe for disaster. But fate takes an unexpected turn when he returns to find his classmates under attack by brain-eating creatures. Now the only thing that stands in the way of their ravenous feast is a boy with a shotgun. The story begins with Gyu sitting on his seat and someone puts a drawing on his shirt with loser written on it. He turns back to see who did this and finds a student behind him. Sion asks what he's looking at and if he wants to get beaten up. Sion says if he turns around next time, he'll hit. Gyu hesitates but turns back. The boys laugh at him for being a coward, and Gyu clenches his pencil in anger. Sion tells the fatty to draw another one as the last one wasn't funny and he obliges. He pats on his back and says if the drawing doesn't meet the standard, he'll beat him. Sion sees Gyu trembling and asks if he has got a problem. He says if he has to cower in fear, then he should do something about it, and says to try to hit him. However, Gyu doesn't do anything, and Sion says he'll talk with him later. Gyu remembers that he heard the same thing earlier. He followed him, but was only beaten and thrown into the trash. 3 people ganged up on him and hurt him badly. He trembles in anger with sweat appearing on his hands. He looks at the teacher and thinks about telling her. Gyu suddenly stands up and everyone looks at him. The teacher asks Gyu about why he stood up suddenly. Gyu replies that he's getting bullied. He says they beat him up at least 3 times a week. The teacher asks what she has to do with this. Gyu continues that they extorted about $1,000 from him. He also shows her the drawing they stuck back at him. The teacher looks at the lousy drawing and bursts into laughter. Seeing their teacher laugh, the students also laugh at him. He stands there silent while everyone makes fun of him. The teacher tries to control her laughter and asks who did this to him. He points to Sion sitting behind him. The teacher says, if that's the case, then what does he expect her to do? Gyu thought that the teacher would help him, not question him, and this made him even more angry. The teacher tells him to get back in his seat and avoid interrupting her again. Gyu says he knew something like this would happen. He reaches out for something wrapped in a cloth in his bag. He throws the cloth away and points the gun at her. The teacher was stunned that he pulled out a gun suddenly and asked, "What is he doing?" Gyu says what she thinks he will do. He pulls the trigger and kills her. Nobody can comprehend what just happened. The moment of silence breaks with students running wildly for their lives. They try to get out through the door, but it won't budge. The girl screams for it to open, and Gyu kills her as well. Next, he points his gun at the fatty who drew him, and he kills him without mercy. He points his gun at another student. The terrified student says he has nothing to do with it, so why is he killing him? He kills him nonetheless. He starts killing every single student of the class, and the window gets painted red. In the end, he slaughtered every student and stands amidst it. Sion tries to get away from him. However, Gyu slowly approaches him and corners him against the wall. Sion apologizes for doing all those wrong things and begs for mercy with tears filled in his eyes. However, Gyu kills him mercilessly. He lowers his gun and thinks he completed his revenge. But it turns out he was just dreaming about it. He gets up from his bed and wishes it wasn't a dream. The scene shifts to the school bus going somewhere. The students inside chat with each other and have fun. A boy complains about clouds being dark and thinks they may have to return. The teacher tells the students to stop roaming and take their seats. As for Gyu, he's sitting alone. He reads a message from his friend, Crew, asking why his trip wasn't cancelled. He replies he doesn't know. Crew texts that he's in the same room with the people bullying him. He looks back and sees the bullies having fun. Suddenly, Sion steps up and comes to Gyu's seat. He says they would toy with him when they reach there. He asks his friend if they have to be in the same room. His friend replies there's no need, and they can swap with each other if he wants. The students reach the destination, and the teacher organizes them in rows. They tell them to hand over their phones. They remind them to write their name on the label. One by one, students began putting their phone in the bag. The students complain about what's wrong with them confiscating their phones. They believe it might rain soon and hope to stay indoors as much as possible. However, Gyu is busy looking at his phone. He tells Crew they are taking the phone and will contact him later. The teacher tells the students to quiet down, asking if they are here to play, and the students reply what else they are here for. One teacher says they will inspect their bags and asks them to neatly arrange everything on the ground. Student makes fun of him acting like they are in for military training. A girl asks Shin if she hid the item well. If they find it and take it away, she's gonna kill her. Shin assures her that she hid it well, Before inspecting the bags, the teacher hopes that they are better than the kids who came here last week. After the inspection is done, he tells them to do 30 jumping jacks. All the students struggle to keep up, and Gyu has its worst, as he's not good physically. He screams out his last set, and thinks he made a blunder. They were told not to scream their last set, and if they did, their whole group had to do another set. His group members are annoyed at him, and he apologizes to everyone. At night, the students are sleeping peacefully, but a mosquito interrupts their sleep. Gyu tries his best to kill the mosquito with his bare hands but fails at it. His roommate tells him to keep quiet. Turns out, Sion has tasked him to kill mosquitoes tonight, and if he finds a single bite on him, he'll have to face the consequences. Gyu replies that he'll try harder, and goes back to killing mosquitoes again. When he kills one, the boy tells him to keep it down and Gyu apologizes. At the same time, a few girls are doing dance practice. Mira scolds another one to take this seriously. She apologizes for making a mistake, but Mira bashes her for making their performance bad because of her silly mistakes. Her friends told her to calm down. They didn't have time to practice because she kept changing the song. Mira cusses at them, asking if she's the one at fault here. A supervisor strolls in and asks what they are doing here at this hour. Mira replies they have a performance tomorrow and are practicing for it. They already have permission from the teacher and will wrap things up quickly. The supervisor sighs and tells them to keep things down and go back to their rooms at a reasonable hour. When he leaves, she curses at him for not minding his own business. Mira goes somewhere and her friends ask where she's going. She says she's going to the bathroom and tells them to keep practicing. She sits in the washroom and smokes a cigar. She thinks that at this rate, she'll become a laughingstock. She doesn't want Sion to look down at her. The door creaks and someone enters it. She gets annoyed that she couldn't have a cigarette in peace. The voice says that it smells like an electric cigarette. The person slowly walks through the bathroom stalls and stops in front of hers. Mira asks if she's Sujin, and even though she tries to change her voice, she knows it's her. She tells her to cut the crap and get lost. The voice says that he likes the smell, and Mira shudders in fear. Soon, shadows of tentacles began forming above her. When she looks up, she gets horrified at the scene. Those tentacles attack her, and she desperately tries to get away from its grasp. But that thing pulls her away. Soon, a note gets pasted on the bathroom being out of order where Mira went earlier. At the archery range, a few students are taking the shots. One student misses the target and complains about missing it again. His friend says he could never make a shot with a temper like that. He teaches that archery requires zen. He asks where Sion is, and the other replies that he's at the nurse's office for anemia. Their attention shifts to someone hitting the bullseye twice. A girl stands calm after making the perfect shot. The boy is impressed on seeing her, and it's a first love on sight. He tells his friend how awesome she is. However, he says to go tell her if he's gonna keep saying it. But he doesn't have the guts to say it to her. He raises the bow for another shot while his friend makes fun of him. He misses once again, and says that archery sucks. He thinks, why is he even going through this pain? He throws his bow and says he's done with him and this stupid game. In the evening, an announcement is made for students to change their uniforms and gather in the auditorium. They also inform the talent show participants to meet in front of the administrative office. Sion, while lying in his room, thinks about the trip ending so soon. He rises and says that it's a bit disappointing. He talks about something missing here and wants to make this trip remarkable. Chan asks if he's thinking about alcohol. He further says that if they get caught it would be problematic, so they didn't bring any. However, Sion says there's still hope. He remembers that the supervisor collected all the bottles he found from the students and made them go through brutal punishment. In the teacher's lounge, two teachers are playing cards. The English teacher throws his card and wins the game. Lee asks him if he ever played this game before as he's too good at this. However, Jay tells him that it's truly his first time and says, "Mr. Lee, you are not good at this game." Another female teacher asks if won't she see the kids' talent show. Kim replies that she has no interest in it. She's sure that the staff there will keep a good eye on them. Director Lee coughs and says that maybe they should go, since the kids worked hard to prepare, so they should show them a little support. Behind Lee, there's a locker with confiscated items of students kept in it, and Sion is discussing the same thing with his friend. He tells him he saw them keep all that wine in there. He just happened to see it while he was going to the nurse's office. He saw the old man taking sips of it in secret. He says the locker is in the back of the lounge and they can't miss it. However, his friend says it's risky to sneak in there. Seon says that it's almost time for the talent show and the girls will be dancing to K-pop. He's sure that the old geezer won't miss it and will drag other teachers with him as well, so he doesn't look like a perv. He says they aren't going to be the ones to be sneaking in and his friend gets confused. Seon says that Gyu would help them here. Gyu looks back to see them and Seon orders him to bring them the booze. Also, if he were to get caught and mention their name, he would face dire consequences. However, Gyu replies he can't do this. Chan pushes him and asks if he wants a beatdown. Gyu bows down and says he doesn't want to get into any trouble. His dad is sick and in the hospital right now. He's heartbroken enough that he has to be at home alone. If he ever finds out that he got into trouble, then he won't be able to handle that stress. Seon chuckles and says he knows that he lives alone. They hung out at his place last time and threw Gyu at one corner after beating him up. Seon tells him that even if he gets caught, they won't expel him out of the school for stealing just a few bottles. He scolds him not to be so dramatic. He also mentions that Gyu hurt his feelings now. Seon says that he's afraid of his father's condition getting worse, but he isn't afraid of him. He asks if this friendship means nothing to him, and Chan also says he's being too cold here. Seon demands to know if this friendship is more important than his father's. Gyu becomes terrified and begs Seon to stop this. Seon tells Chan to bring him a mosquito repellent. He says if he doesn't answer, he'll make him eat this. He asks again what's more important to him. He breaks a piece of the repellent and says he's waiting. Gyu confesses that the friendship means more to him. With tears rolling from his eyes and making a fake smile, he says this friendship is more important. Suddenly, Seon smacks him in the face and Gyu hits the wall hard. Seon says that he's such a terrible son. He's so afraid of taking a little beating that he threw his dad under the bus for it. Seon says he would be ashamed to call him his son if he was to be his dad. He tells Chan to come with him and de-stress a bit in the talent show. When they are about to leave, Gyu rises and says he feels even worse for his parents. They must be devastated to have a shit stain like him for a son. Gyu imagined it many times when he could finally stand up to Seon. Seon looks at him and calls out his name. He makes an ugly face and asks if he wants to say that again. When Gyu sees him like that, he becomes terrified, and all the courage leaves his body. Seon looms over him and asks if he wants to die today. Gyu sees that his closest escape option is through the window, so he runs desperately towards it. He opens the window and hops over the ledge. Chan asks if he's really going to jump from there. As he said that, Gyu jumped over the window and landed on the edge of the wall. However, his feet slip, and he falls to the ground. Despite the pain, he still tries running. Seon says he'll be a dead meat when he catches him. Saying that, he too jumps out of the window to pursue Gyu. Gyu runs through the forest while thinking about his next plan of action. He had never seen Seon make that face, and he's now afraid of facing him. He thinks if he gets caught, then he'll be good as dead. At the same time, the girls talk about how their yesterday practice got screwed because of Mira. They complain about Mira bringing up the idea and leaving them in the dark suddenly. Yesterday, Mira looked serious after she came from the bathroom. Her friend asks if she's feeling better and if they can begin their practice. One girl nudges Hey, asking if she won't mess this time. Suddenly, Mira says she's quitting. Her friend becomes confused and asks why she's quitting all of a sudden. However, Mira doesn't reply and walks past them. They think about what's gotten into her, and Hey notices bloodstains on Mira's back. In the present, her friend complains that she's acting weird since last night. They ask Hey about Mira since she's in the same room as hers. She replies she tried to talk, but Mira didn't say anything. Yesterday night they all were sleeping and Hey looked at Mira. She gets up from his bed and asks if she's mad because she keeps messing up her steps. She tells her that she can't just quit because of her. She asks how can she be selfish and isn't behaving properly with the other two. However, she was just imagining herself talking to Mira, but wasn't able to say it. She believes they are supposed to be friends and gets afraid to confront her. Suddenly, she hears Mira mumbling. She starts blurting out that she's Mira. She attended middle school and is the youngest child. She has 2 brothers and was born in Busan. She wants to be a K-pop star and has a YouTube channel called Mira's Miracles. She has 13,000 subscribers and 4,000 views per video. She's a heavy smoker and switched to electronic cigarettes recently. She doesn't take school seriously and likes the bully Seon. She says she has memorized it all. When Hey tells them about this to her friends, they too creep out. A girl asks Hey if she even talked to her last night, and another girl points out that Hei is scared as a little mouse. Hei explains that Mira wasn't sleep-talking, and feels that something isn't right with her. She also explains that she found some weird stench coming from Mira. It was very unusual, and something she never smelt before. Suddenly, Mira with a grave expression stands in front of her. Hei creeps out and gets back on the jump scare. Mira asks Hei if she's all right. Her friends look at her puzzled and demand an explanation for her actions. She walked out on them yesterday, and it's almost time for the show. However, Mira with a creepy smile tells them not to worry. She says today's show will be incredible. At the auditorium, the talent show began and students cheer in excitement. Students find the announcer quite amusing and better than before. The show began, and a group of boys dance on the stage. The audience says they are hot except for the one in the back. Outside the auditorium, the supervisor discusses that 2 students are missing. He counted them, and 2 boys are missing from class 1. He further asks what they should do about it. With a creepy smile, the other says to forget about them and have some fun here. Back at the forest, Gyu is panting heavily. He thinks he ran too far and doesn't know where he is. He looks around and sees nothing except dense trees. He tries to calm himself down and says he can figure this out. He goes through the bushes and sees a steep slope down. He wonders how he could climb down with it being so dark. However, his luck shines, and he sees the moonlight making the path visible. He slowly slides down while holding branches. However, his luck ends quickly when the moon hides behind the clouds. He complains about not being able to see anything, and his feet slip on one of the rocks. He starts rolling down the cliff and gets thrown out of it. In his last moments, he wonders if he would die like this. If he knew something like this was going to happen, then he would have kept his mouth shut. Soon after, he falls to the ground with a thud. On the other hand, Sion is looking for Gyu in the forest and complains about not being able to see him. He sees that it's about to rain and decides to head back. At the talent show, a boy is playing an instrument, but the audience doesn't quite like it. They tell him to get off the stage while throwing stuff at him. Amidst the chaos, a boy asks Chan if he saw Sion anywhere, but he doesn't know anything after Sion jumped out of the window. The organizer says that students didn't quite like the performance, and says not to worry, as they have one more act left. They will have Mira and her friends from Class 2 perform next. They are called the Miracle Girls and will be doing an exciting dance cover. Everyone starts cheering for Mira on hearing her up next. All the lights turn off and students discuss that it's going to be spectacular. The teacher ponders if turning off the lights is a part of the act as well. The students complain about why the show is not beginning. Soon the light turns on, and they see Mira standing there covered in blood. The students and teachers alike remain confused, asking if this is also a part of the act. Mira stretches out her hand and welcomes everyone. She smiles creepily and asks if they enjoyed their retreat. The students look confused on hearing it. The guards that were standing outside also came in and blocked the exit. Students see the guards and feel something amiss. Mira says that it's time for them to feast on their brain. Outside, Gyu is lying unconscious in the heavy rainfall. He gets up and clutches his chest. He heaves desperately and tries to calm himself down. Suddenly, he starts laughing wildly, exclaiming he made it out alive after tumbling down a cliff. However, his happiness is short-lived as he doesn't know where he is at. He sees a shotgun lying near him. He looks at it closely and wonders how it came here. He then looks up and finds a truck tilted on the ground and crushed from one side. He wonders what a moving truck is doing here in the middle of nowhere. He inspects the truck and sees the driver's window broken. He then picks up the gun lying on the ground and inspects it. He wonders if it's a real gun and goes to check the back of the truck. He sees a huge dent in the back and deduces that someone tried to bust it through from the inside. He tries to peek in through the gap but couldn't see anything. He was about to open it when he heard bushes rustling from the back. He turns around and sees a student standing in the forest watching him. When he looks closely, that person turns out to be Sion. On seeing him, Gyu stumbles and falls to the ground while losing the grip of the gun. When he looks back, Sion has already vanished from there. He grabs his gun and demands Sion to come out of the hiding. He says he has a gun, a real gun. However, he doesn't get a reply from him. Sion comes from his side and says he's acting strange, and Gyu points his gun at him. Sion asks why there's a moving truck here and rolled onto its side, no less. Sion says he wouldn't expect to find a gun in a moving truck like that. He tells him to hand over the gun as it could be dangerous. However, Gyu tells him to keep his distance. When Sion approaches Gyu, he threatens to shoot. Sion asks if he's sure about that, and if he thinks that a wet gun will fire. He comes close to him and grabs the gun while saying he doesn't know how to use this thing. Gyu gets frightened and Sion demands him to hand it over. However, Gyu resists and tells him to let go of it. Sion says that a weapon like this has no role in the hands of a loser. This makes Gyu angry, and he snatches back his gun from him. He clocks the gun and points it at him. He tells Sion that this gun belongs to him, and shoots him with it. Sion falls to the ground and Gyu again aims his gun at him, saying this gun belongs to him. He pulls the trigger on his face in anger and pants heavily after shooting him. However, the body vanishes from that spot and leaves behind a pool of blood. He wonders how Sion's body disappeared and what's going on here. He looks at his weapon and remembers the time he played a similar arcade game. Gyu's friend was playing a zombie shooter with a shotgun in his hand. He gets an S rank and sets a new high score. Gyu compliments him on setting a new high score. However, Crew replies that he just got lucky. He hands him the shotgun and tells him to give it a try. But Gyu denies it as he never played a shooting game before. However, Crew persists and says there's a first time for everything. Gyu starts playing the game and sets the new high score. Crew wonders how he did it, and Gyu is amazed as well. Crew asks if this is his first time, and he replies yes with nervous laughter. Crew asks why he was so serious about it, as if he was in a real zombie apocalypse. Gyu tells him he imagined the zombies to be his bully. He wants to do the same thing to those bullies as he did to these zombies, kill them all one by one. In the present, Gyu is crouching on the truck. He opens the truck door and inspects its interior. Inside, he finds a full pack of shotgun magazines with 30 shells. He calculates that there are 29 people in his class, and if he counts the teacher as well, then that makes the total 30. Back at the school, Mira talks about feasting on their brains. The students whisper about what she's talking about. The organizer says that she should have told them earlier if she was switching her act. However, Mira tells him she's not interested in eating his brain. When he questions her, she grabs the man's face. She says although she is not interested in eating him, she can't let him live. Saying this, she twists the man's head. Others look surprised and think that the act looks too real. They wonder if they should be thrilled or scared. Suddenly, Mira jumps from the podium and lands among the students. Tentacles began stretching out from her forehead, arms, and legs. The students get terrified of seeing the monstrosity. Mira says that she will take out the trash here. She uses her tentacles to kill multiple students at once. After that, Mira stands in front of fresh students ready to be killed. One of the students tells others to run. They began running away from there, and among the chaos, some students fall and get stomped. Every student stopped when they saw the supervisors guarding the exit. They tell them that no one will leave this place. Students ask who are they to stop them. The supervisor pulls out his tongue and says they are monsters. They kill more students, and Lee asks the PE teacher to do something. He grabs a chair and Lee pushes him to save the children. He charges at the monster and smacks his head with it. He pants heavily but gets terrified to see the man get back. He forms a huge arm and says they are not on the same level. He kills the teacher in one hit and grins at it. He thinks that his head exploded while other students grow horrified. The man scares the children, and they run away. Chan asks Song to do something about it, but he doesn't have any idea how to deal with them. He doesn't want the same thing to happen to him as the PE teacher. The man approaches the student from one side, and Mira comes from the other side. All students and teachers hurtle together in the center. One man tells everyone to listen up. He'll ask them a question, and all they have to do is raise their hand if they find it relatable to them. His first question is about anyone being rich here. No one raises their hand, and the man gets disappointed. One student raises his hand, and the man asks how rich he is. The student replies that his grandfather owns a large construction company, and his father is a national assemblyman. The man removes his cap and asks if he only has money and power. When the student asks the reason, he stabs him in the head. He starts sucking his blood through the tentacle, and the student dies. The man picks up his glasses and says that was a silly question. He puts on the glasses and tells them to get ready for the next question. Students panic on seeing a dead student. They beg them not to kill them as they are poor and have zero talents. One of them says that he gets the worst grades and is dumb as a rock. A tentacle comes out of the man's eye and says he sure looks like a dumb child and kills him. Students and teachers alike are horrified to witness another murder. One of the men talks to the foreign teacher and asks if he's an English teacher from abroad. He says he looks fit and approaches him. A girl among the crowds asks what they are. She boldly comes out from the group of students and faces them. She tells them they will kill all of them anyway. She accepts her fate, but she demands to at least know who they are. While she talks to them, she reaches for the blade in her pocket. She holds it behind her hand and says they are not some brainless beast, so they should at least tell them about it. The man comes towards her and removes her cap. Since she asked for it, so he'll show her who they truly are. The man shapeshifts into another human being and asks if telling her would make a difference. He places his hand on her shoulders and says he has gotten close to her. She could use the little blade she's hiding and see if she can kill him, since she thought she could be a hero. So in that case, only death awaits her. He starts squeezing her neck and says she should have stayed quiet. Mira intervenes and says that the owner of the body hates her. The man asks Mira if she found this girl in her memory, and Mira replies that she was painfully jealous of her. Shin thinks that the monster inherited Mira's hate. The man tosses her aside and tells her to avenge her. With a tentacle coming out of her forehead, Mira gets the opportunity to kill her. Lee asks Jay to do something about it. Everyone grows tense with each moment passing by. Suddenly, someone kicks the door and demands to know where Sion is. Everyone looks at the newcomer. Turns out it's Gyu standing at the gate while panting heavily. He sees the looks of afraid students and Mira having a tentacle coming from her forehead. He gets confused about what's happening here. The man asks who that boy is, but Mira doesn't have a clue about it, as he isn't in her memories. The man orders his subordinate to kill him. He comes toward Gyu with a tentacle coming out of his mouth. Gyu becomes even more terrified after seeing it. Suddenly, Shin screams at him to run. She keeps telling him to run, but he stays still. The man comes closer to him and says he looks like a weak and stupid kid. More tentacles come out of his body and says he's nothing but trash. For them, trash gets disposed of. Suddenly, Gyu comes to his senses and pulls out the gun from his back. He clocks the gun and aims at the man. He looks surprised at him bringing a gun suddenly. Gyu tells him to die and shoots him. Multiple bullets pierce his chest and cause some reactions in the mutated cells inside his body. The cells began to get unstabilized, and he loses his arm. Other monsters get shocked at seeing one of their kind being killed. The man limps towards Gyu and asks from where he got that gun. The man falls to the ground and all his interior splashes out. Students are relieved and scared at the same time. All the monsters looked stunned at the boy bringing a shotgun. Gyu's adrenal rush slowed down, and he began panicking again. One of the monsters remembers seeing that gun before, and inquires how he got it. Mira tells her comrades to get a hold of themselves as there's only one gun. Shin smirks and tries to cut Mira when she has her guard down. However, Mira counterattacks with her tentacles, but Shin dodges it. Shin tells everyone to run as these monsters have no intention of letting them live. She tells them to scatter in every direction as they outnumber them, and the students follow her advice. One of the students points towards a back door and suggests leaving that way. Another student finds the window open and leads the other through it. The rest try to rush out from the way Gyu just came in. The monster discusses that the kid has no shooting experience and they could kill him easily. One of them leaps into the air towards Gyu while killing other students in his way. Gyu points his gun at him, but he changes direction before he can shoot. He approaches him from a different direction, thinking he outsmarted the kid. However, Gyu manages just enough to notice his movement. He aims his gun in a different direction and blasts off the man's hand. In the teacher's lounge, Miss Kim is talking to someone on the phone when she suddenly hears some gunshots. She thinks she must have misheard it and goes back to talking to her boyfriend. Suddenly the call ended, and she wondered if it was a network problem. She dials again and waits for him to pick up. Suddenly a strange loud noise comes from her phone and she drops it. The call ended, and she wondered what that weird noise was. Back at the auditorium, the man curses Gyu for blowing off his hand. Gyu wonders if him losing an arm isn't enough to kill him. The cells were about to mutate and kill the man, but his friend steps in and cut the arm to save him. The arm falls off and Gyu finds it disgusting. He thinks that there is more than one of them. The man thanks his buddy for saving him. The man extends his hand and grabs the fatty. He uses him as a meat shield against Gyu. However, Gyu clocks his gun and readies himself for another round. The fatty cries and begs Gyu not to shoot. However, Gyu doesn't give a damn about him and was about to pull the trigger. The man senses that the boy isn't hesitating at all and will pull the trigger. So, he throws the fatty at him. However, the English teacher comes in clutch and grabs the fatty. He tells Gyu to kill those bastards. Gyu shoots at the man and he leaps into the air. However, Gyu clocks the gun and aims at him in the air. The man, sensing the danger, ducks under and evades the shot narrowly. He looks at him angrily, wanting to kill him now more eagerly. The leader tells them it's time to get out now and Mira agrees. He tells his man to stand down as he doesn't want to lose him too. The man agrees to it and spews out smoke from his mouth. Everyone coughs in the smoke and tries to get out. Soon the smoke clears and the monsters left the auditorium. The students look around and wonder where they went. Shin feels a drop of water falling on her. When she looks up, she finds the ceiling burst. She wonders if those things are powerful enough to do this. Lee and other teachers look at Gyu holding a gun in front of them. The scene shifts to Seon finding his way back to the school in the downpour. After a lot of struggle, he finally found it. While walking down the wooden logs, he thinks about beating Gyu once he sees him. He thinks that he got lost in the woods because of him. He's also scared as he heard that the forest gets dangerous at night. He reaches the auditorium and wonders if the talent show already got over. He believes it's too early and feels the place to be quiet. However, he's unaware of the fact that someone is lurking behind him. In the auditorium, everything is a mess. A dozen students are dead, and many are puzzled. Lee marches toward Gyu and asks where he got that gun. He replies he just found it, and Lee further asks from where. He scolds him for missing the whole time. However, Shin tells Mr. Lee that's not important now. Jay also agrees to it as students have died, and they don't know anything about those creatures. He says that the most urgent thing is to call the police and proceeds to dial it. However, he hears a strange noise and puts his phone away. Lee asks what's wrong, and he replies he can't connect with them. Lee dials the number himself, but it gets cut to no avail. Students ask if there's no reception, then what will they do? They need to get out of here before they get killed. One girl couldn't handle it, and she vomits out. Another student comforts her, asking if she's all right. She asks what those things were, and the boy replies, he has no clue as well. He pinches himself to confirm if it's not a dream. They inspect the dead monster and the teacher gets frightened on seeing it up close. Shin looks at Gyu standing with his gun. She notices that he doesn't have shoes on. She tries to take off a dead person's shoes, and another girl questions her what she's doing. She replies she's doing her best to stay alive in this mess. She hands Gyu the pair of shoes, and he thanks her for it. She tells him it's dangerous here and suggests moving. As for the gun, she doesn't know from where he got it, but it's able to kill those monsters. Gyu looks at his gun and believes that to be the case. She throws the pair of shoes and tells him to put it on. She tells all of them to move to the teacher's lounge and Gyu should take the lead. Lee suggests that he shouldn't hold something so dangerous and asks him to hand it over. However, Gyu denies it and steps away from him. Lee tells him to not make things harder for him. When Gyu refuses, Lee scolds him for being underage for holding and firing a gun. Gyu tells him that he won't give his gun to anyone, and if they try to take it, then he'll put a bullet through their head. Lee scolds him for giving empty threats to him. The fatty interrupts Lee and replies that Gyu isn't joking about it. When he was being used as a meat shield, Gyu didn't flinch to take the shot. He asks Gyu if he was really about to pull the trigger. However, Gyu didn't reply, and soon they all began leaving the auditorium with Gyu leading them. The scene shifts back to Seon standing in front of the school. He senses someone from behind and turns to look at it. He sees a girl limping towards him. He recognizes her as Hei and asks what she's doing here. He asks if she was supposed to be with Mira, then what is she doing here? However, Hei keeps saying about the monsters and that they need to get away. She becomes unconscious and falls into Seon's hands. He sees blood all over her clothes and a weird stench coming from here. She tells him that all her friends are dead. A creature looking like Mira killed them. Seon is shocked and wonders what she's talking about. The scene shifts to 1 hour later. Other teachers inform Miss Kim about creatures attacking them, killing their students and the PE teacher. She asks if they all are drinking or something. However, Jay tells her that it's true. She believes him and asks if they tried calling the police. Lee explains that they tried but couldn't reach them. He opens the drawer and empties the bag full of phones. He tells the student to look for a mobile that has a signal and call the police. A student tells him that there's neither a signal nor internet. Others check their respective cell phone but find no signal. Gyu also tried sending a message but couldn't send it to crew. On reading his last message, he wonders if he could make it back in one piece. A student asks the teacher if this ever happened before, but she replies this is the first time. Shin thinks it's not a reception issue and wonders what this loud noise means. A student says that those creatures could be nearby and asks what they should do about it. Jay also says that Lee was in the Marines before, but he denies it. He says that the bus will be here to pick them up tomorrow and they could wait here till then. However, Shin says they won't survive if they stay in here. She tells them that those creatures are powerful and can burst through walls like they did in the auditorium. Lee suggests reinforcing the ceiling and walls, but Shin replies that no reinforcement could stop them. Those creatures will find a way to get in no matter what they do. He asks if she's suggesting about going outside. However, she replies that it's raining and nighttime, so going outside is a bad choice. He tells her to come up with a better plan if she keeps questioning him. She asks if any of the teachers brought a car here. Jay replies that one teacher did bring it. He couldn't take the bus because he had some personal matters to take care of. She asks who he is, and Jay replies that person happens to be the PE teacher. However, the PE teacher was already killed by those monsters, and everyone remained in silence on hearing it. Outside the school, Sion asks Hei if Mira turned into a monster and killed her other friends by stabbing through tentacles. She replies that happens to be the case. When she saw Mira killing one of her friends, she realized what was happening and ran for it, escaping narrowly. Sion asks if she finds this funny. He screams at her as everyone is trying to mess with him today. However, Jay tells him to stop yelling as creatures will be attracted. He gets up and says he had enough of this. He points to the building and asks if he sees the dead bodies lying in the front building, then he'll believe her. However, Jay stops him from going there. But Sion laughs and says he's in the mood to see a corpse. He takes Hei along with him forcefully. Hei begs him to not push her over there as creatures are roaming in that place. Sion knew that Hei was a coward, but he didn't know she was such a convincing actor. When Sion reaches the auditorium, he sees the gate wide open. He hears some sound and goes to inspect it. He tells Hei to stay put while he comes back quickly. He reaches inside the hall and sees the door creaking. He slowly goes in there and opens the door. What he sees next freaks him out. He sees countless dead students lying on the floor. He also sees the exploded head of the PE teacher and sweats heavily. At the same time, Shin tells Gyu to go to the auditorium together and fetch the car keys from the PE teacher. Sion looks around and finds something melting in front of him. He remembers Hei's words that a creature looking like Mira killed her friends. Suddenly, Hei comes from behind and screams on seeing the mass murder. One of the students is on his last breath and begs them to save him. Sion rushes toward him and asks what happened here. The boy keeps saying that it must be a bad dream, and that with some sleep it will go away. Sion tells the boy to get a hold of himself and not close his eyes. However, he's already giving in and calling out for his mom and dad in his last breath. He soon passes away, leaving Sion in utter confusion. Sion looks around and breaks the glass to get the emergency flashlight. He thinks that it's better than having nothing. He sees the corpses of students from the dance club and wonders what happened here. He finds one of them having good shoes, and Sion swaps it out with his. When asked about his action, he replies that it's better for him to have it. He says she was right, this place is dangerous, and they should leave it immediately. Back at the teacher's lounge, Gyu is reloading his gun. Lee sees him, but doesn't speak back to him. He asks another teacher if those creatures know they are in there, but she doesn't have an answer for it. They have turned off the lights and closed the curtains, but they can't let their guard down. He hopes that those creatures should be chasing the escaped kids and not searching for them. Shin tells Jay to let them go. Jay says that even if they find the keys, do they even know how to drive a car? It's dangerous for two of them to go out. As a teacher, he can't put them in danger. Shin asks if he would like to come along with them. She tells him they can't sit around hoping they won't find them first. They have to take the initiative. Kim reprimands Shin for talking back to her teacher, but Jay assures her it's fine. He thinks deeply about it and agrees to her condition, since he can't let them go alone, so he'll come along as well. She explains that having more people will be too noisy, so only Gyu, her, and Mr. J will be going out, and the rest should stay here. When they hear the sound of the engine, they should run out of the front entrance. Kim is worried about the plan. She hasn't seen what those creatures look like. A student explains that they look like humans, but they have tentacles coming out of their skin. She finds this situation puzzling. She gets an idea and thinks about marking them somewhere hidden. Lee compliments her smart thinking, as those creatures can shapeshift, so having a mark will tell them who's real. However, Shin tells them that those creatures suck their victim's brain and take their form. She also tells Kim that they take the victim's memories and emotions. She knows this from her previous encounter with them. So, if any one of their brain gets sucked by these creatures, they'll know about these marks as well. Thus marking them will be useless. She even deduces that a creature might be among one of them. Everyone gets shocked and looks at each other suspiciously. The trio soon goes on the quest to bring the keys. Jay asks about why she freaked everyone out there. She apologizes to him for doing it, and Gyu says that Shin is the type to act alone. Shin also looks surprised at Gyu as he's being cooperative. She thought he would have told her to go away. He replies that she isn't wrong. He doesn't want to help them as they never cared about him in the first place. He tells her that she's just like the other students. He would go as far as calling her a traitor. He also tells her that he knows how to drive. Once his father passed out, and he drove him to the hospital by himself. He was in middle school at that time. He suddenly points his gun at her and says he doesn't give a damn about people like her. He's getting out of here alone. Turns out, Gyu was just imagining it. Shin asks Gyu to look around that corner. He sees no one there, and Shin passes through him. He thinks that in his school life, no one tried to help him. He wondered why nobody did anything about it. Others found it assuring that it was Gyu, not them getting picked on. While he was being dragged by Sion, he saw Shin in the hallway and called out for her help. They used to play together in childhood and asks her if she remembers him. However, she looks at him and ignores him. Jay places his hand on Gyu's shoulder and asks if he's okay. He wanted to know if he's okay as he was spacing out just now. Gyu tells him he's fine, and they move out of the front entrance. Shin says it finally stopped raining, and Jay tells them to stay close. Shin asks from where he got the gun, and he replies he just found it. When she asks from where, he explains he got it from a truck. She inquires what a truck was doing in the middle of the woods and asks what happened next. Gyu replies that he saw Sion taunting him, so he shot him. But what surprised him was that he disappeared all of a sudden. He inspected the shot that hit the tree behind Sion. After rubbing his hand through it, he found some green liquid sticking to it. After that, he grabbed the bag and shells from the truck. Before leaving, he wanted to see what was inside the truck. He pulled it with force and opened it. What he saw next in there really shocked him. Before we could know what's inside, the scene shifts to Sion and Hei panting. Sion thinks if they keep going this way, there would be a major road. Hei asks if he's sure about that, and Sion assures her that he saw it during the bus ride. Suddenly, they hear someone screaming in the woods. Two students run in their direction while crying for help. One of the students gets killed by the tentacle while the other one keeps running. However, the tentacle stabs the other kid as well, and he dies. Mira comes out of the bushes with tentacles coming out of her head. She sees the dead student and the darkness that lies ahead. She walks down the road while Sion and Hei try their best to stay quiet behind the tree. However, she halts suddenly, and this startles Sion. She looks in their direction with a creepy face. The scene shifts to Shin asking Gyu about what he saw in the truck. He replies that inside the truck, he saw multiple capsules. They had numbers written on them. He is about to tell her more, but Jay tells him to provide cover. Soon, they enter the auditorium with caution. Shin wonders if Gyu is telling her the truth. To her, the idea of a truck in the middle of the woods sounds strange. Plus, why would he find a shotgun lying on the ground near it? She thinks that after the shell hit, there was another explosion in the creature's body. She feels something off about the gun. Gyu kicks the door and enters. The place is still a mess when they left it. Gyu thinks that those things weren't here before, and Shin looks for the PE teacher. She leans over to him and rummages through his pockets. Jay hurriedly asks if she found it. She searches desperately and hopes she can find it. She finds them finally and shows them. Back in the forests, Sion and Hei are hiding from Mira. She says how annoying these humans are. She walks away while complaining about not getting the kid's phone first. She's heading to the teacher's lounge to destroy them. She believes they would be fine if they watch out for the shotgun boy. Sion says that she looked exactly like Mira, but had tentacles coming out of her. He suggests leaving this place as soon as possible. They walk through the path and see the dead student killed recently. He gets even more shocked at seeing more corpses lying in front of them. He stands still and keeps looking at his dead classmates. Hei asks him what he's doing, and he comes back to his senses. He says that she's right, they don't have time to dwell on this. As they pass more corpses, Hei gets more scared, and Sion assures her that everything will be fine once they find that road. However, Sion notices that the bridge leading to the road is broken, thus cutting their escape route. Back at the school, the trio are running towards the car. Shin points to the white van in the far corner and they rush toward it. She unlocks the car with the sensor and they get in. Jay sits in the driver's seat and asks if they got in, and Shin replies, yes. He starts the engine and light flashes at someone standing in front of it. They all get shocked at seeing another creature showing up. Mira stands in their way with a deadbeat face. She tells them to get ready as it's time for the finale of this trip. A tentacle comes out of her mouth and she attacks the van with it. The tentacle goes right through the middle of the car and they evade it narrowly. Jay slams the pedal and sends Mira flying. She lands a few feet away but is still alive. She asks what kind of teacher he is that drives into a student with a van. She creepily gets up with broken bones. Gyu tells Shin to open the door. Mira lunges at the car and says she will have to report Jay for doing this. Suddenly, Gyu comes out of the door and aims his gun at her. He fires at her and she tries to evade it. However, one shell hits her leg and she feels immeasurable pain. Shin tells Jay to drive and he steps up the paddle. Mira's leg began to mutate where the bullet hit her. Before it could reach any further, she cuts off her leg. She now wants that boy to pay the price for this. Shin asks if he's sure that he hit her, and Gyu replies he believes it to be the case. However, Mira is still coming after them. She runs with all four limbs and jumps on top of the van. She spreads out her tentacles to kill them, and Jay quickly slams the brake. The tires screeches and they send her tumbling down on the ground. However, she attacks one of the car's tires and bursts it. Jay tries his best to maneuver the vehicle, but rams it on the edge. Everyone inside rolls and the van tilts to one side. One student peeks through the curtain and gets horrified at seeing Mira. Lee inquires about the sudden noise, and he replies that their escape option is cut. Another student peeks and sees Mira standing in front of them with the van turned. He screams about the monster being outside while the other boy tells him to stay quiet. Mira notices them and says they are hiding here. She comes toward them and says they made things convenient as she was heading there anyway. The students get back from the window and tell everyone to get ready. Mira comes close and taps on the window. She asks if they were behaving properly and didn't try to call anyone. She starts breaking the glass while repeating her question. The scene shifts to a shabby cottage. Other creatures are waiting there, and one says his arm will heal in an hour. The leader asks why Mira is taking so long to destroy the phones. He tells Four to call her. He dials her number but couldn't get any signal. The leader asks what that strange noise was, but he doesn't know about it. Outside their cottage, something more sinister appears. The leader finds the network strange. He senses something odd and looks outside the window. However, he doesn't see anyone. Four asks what's wrong as if he heard something. He asks if they didn't sense it. There's something outside. One says that it could be a wild animal. However, the leader denies it. On the other hand, Gyu and others are knocked unconscious in the car. Gyu recalls talking to his friend. Crew asked if wasn't he afraid of returning to school. When Gyu asks the reason for it, he replies that he's getting bullied at school. Crew asks why didn't he tell him, but Gyu replies he couldn't do anything about it. Crew says that brute force isn't everything and suggests calling the police. However, Gyu doesn't want the police to get involved as it will make his sick father more worried. He asks Crew if he could hang out with him, and he agrees to it. Gyu's teacher comes to them and asks what he's doing this late. Gyu replies that he'll hang out with Crew today. He leaves and tells him not to stay late. Crew asks who that person is, and Gyu replies that he's the Korean teacher. He tells Gyu to ask him for help. But he sees his friend sad, and says if it was that easy, then bullying would have disappeared long ago. Gyu says that in this world, weak are weak because they can't fight. Soon, he comes back to his senses and hears the window cracking. Mira enters the lounge and students scatter. One of the students tries to open the door and Mira comes behind her. She says that humans can't do simple things when they panic. She kills the girl with a tentacle. Mira suggests everyone escape through the door one by one in an order. She tells them to run, but they freeze in fear. She asks which kid was screaming at the top of his lungs earlier. She grabs one student and asks if it was him. She began squashing his neck, and he falls dead on the ground. Lee and other students panic about her coming towards them and beg for help. Suddenly, Gyu comes to the window and aims the gun at her. He tells her that she isn't the only one capable of killing them. Mira says he remembers him now. He's a loser boy with the name of Gyu. When he stormed into the auditorium, he screamed Sion's name. She deduces that he was planning on using that gun to shoot Sion. She says when Sion and his goons were picking on him. Did anyone help him? She asks if he was to kill her. Then will these people like him? She asks if the life that he hated so much will magically improve. If he walks away right now, she assures him she won't harm him. He can leave this place and everyone behind him. All he has to do is promise he won't shoot them. She doesn't know how he got that gun. But it won't resolve his problem. Even if he was to shoot her, she would take him down with him. She'll have a few seconds before she dies, until then she'll cut his throat. She asks if he'll accept the offer or not. Lee asks Gyu what he's doing standing there. He should shoot her already. Kim tells him not to listen to the monster. Fatty also says that he would have helped him, but he was powerless. Everyone tells Gyu to shoot her, and he imagines these people to be the monsters. Gyu remembers all the torment he suffered and agrees with what Mira is saying. He says why should he put his life on the line to save these people? The teacher becomes horrified when Gyu takes the monster's side. Suddenly, Shin comes behind him and asks if he can trust that monster with his life. She can't believe that he's even considering her offer. She tells him to hate anyone he wants, but they are humans, and those creatures are not. She says this is the chance to finish her off and shouldn't let go of it. He puts his finger on the trigger and Mira rushes to attack him. Mira attacks him with a tentacle, but Shin pulls Gyu behind and saves his life narrowly. The people inside the lounge grab their escape chance and rush to the door. Mira looks at Shin and says she has a habit of poking her nose in other people's business. She walks toward her and says she will smash her skull. However, Gyu saves Shin by shooting Mira. The monster began screaming in pain, saying it hurts like hell. She has to get rid of this body before it mutates. Mira begins to sever her neck, trying to separate her from the rest of the body. Gyu readies his gun to kill her, but Shin tells him to hold down. She wants to lure her to the archery range to test something. Mira rips off her head, and it comes tumbling down in front of them. The tentacle comes out of her head, and Shin tells Gyu to run on the count of 3. She counted 3, and they began running for it. Gyu inquires about what she wants to check at a time like this. She tells him to just trust her, and will need the shotgun for a while. However, Gyu replies that the gun belongs to him, and won't give it to her. She says she isn't interested in the gun but in the shells he got. Mira chases them while slamming her tentacles all around. Shin tells Gyu that she'll only need 1 shell. Mira enters the building and tells them to come out. She climbs the stairs and stares at the empty hallway. She searches and looks around for them in the archery room. Shin calls out to her and stands in front of her. Mira smiles and asks if she ran all the way just to get trapped here. She inquires about Gyu and Shin replies that he ran away. Mira finds Gyu running away suspicious. She looks at the locker room to her right side and believes Gyu is hiding in there. She calls their plan foolish as she predicted it. Mira asks if she remembers the day when she was humiliated on the rooftop. She was bullied by Sion and other students. The real Mira saw this and ran to her side to comfort her. Although she was acting worried, she was happy from within. She wonders what led her to the rooftop that day. The real Mira didn't know about it but found out later. As Mira is about to reveal it, Shin aims the arrow at her. Mira asks if she could kill her with a toy like that. Shin replies, "It doesn't matter if it's human or monster. But headshots always kill them." Mira couldn't find this more amusing than ever and laughs maniacally. Shin takes the shot and it hits her head. However, Mira takes out the arrow and compliments her shot. She tosses the arrow aside and wonders what punishment she'll give her now. She thinks that separating her head from her body would be spectacular. Since the real owner despised her and she ate her brain, so killing would be the least she could do. She charges wildly at Shin, and at the same time Gyu comes out of the locker and aims at her. However, she already predicted him coming out of there and sent one of her tentacles at him. Gyu notices it and panics upon seeing it. The scene shifts to the time when they were strategizing. Shin deduces that the pellets inside the shells are more important. She empties a shell and small pellets clatter on the floor. She says the bullet holes he saw in the tree were green in color. She asks how his hand reacted after touching them, and he replies that they were okay. She uses the tip of the arrow to make a hole in a pellet. She believes that with this, she would be able to fight those creatures as well. The place where the arrow hit Mira began to mutate. The tentacle hits the locker beside Gyu, and he gets to live another day. In her dying moments, she wonders how could she die to a normal arrow. She burst up, and all the tentacles splatter on the ground. Shin apologizes to the real Mira and says she has avenged her now. She picks up the arrow with green fluid spread on it. At the tilted van, Jay regains consciousness and comes out of it. He walks the stairs and sees the aftermath of the battle. He wonders what just happened there. The scene then shifts to Sion and Hei walking through the forest. Sion hears some sound coming from the darkness. He hears someone talking in the cave. Sion moves toward it slowly and crouches at a safe distance. He wonders if those voices are of his friends. He flashes the light at them and finds that to be true. His friends ask if it's really him. Sion hears them talking about Gyu and asks what just he did. Soon after they are sitting in the cave, and Chan asks how they'll get out of here since the bridge is destroyed. He asks if they have to go through the woods. However, Sang suggests waiting here till morning. Sion inquires if Gyu has a gun. Sang doesn't have an idea from where he got, but he just showed up with it and killed one creature. Chan suggests Sion to stay out of Gyu's way as he had planned to kill him on sight. Sion scoffs at his claims, saying that a loser like Gyu couldn't pull it off. However, Chan explains how he killed those monsters fearlessly. Sion says shooting humans is different than monsters. But Sang says that Gyu sees them as nothing more than a monster. Suddenly they see someone flashing a light at them. They look puzzled about what's lurking in the woods. Kang goes to inspect it, thinking if the military has arrived to rescue them. However, Gyu grabs him by the shirt and asks if he's sure they are here to help them. He orders Chan to check out the light source. Chan becomes terrified and asks if he's referring to him. On seeing Sion insist, he goes there with a stick to defend himself. Sion and Sang also arm themselves. Sion tells Sang to run if a monster appears from there. Sang inquires about what will happen to Chan in that case. He replies that it can't be helped. Since they are going against monsters who kill without thinking, they need to increase the chances of their survival. He sent Chan instead of him because he's useless and talks too much. He tells Sang to be glad that he is not the one going there. As soon as Chan reaches the light source, the light disappears. He sees a little kid in front of him and tells the rest to come over to him. But they hide behind a rock and Sang wonders why that idiot Chan is calling them. Nonetheless, all of them got to inspect that child while being wary of him. Sang asks if she's one of them, but Chan doesn't feel like that to be the case. Sion looks at the kid closely and sees the logo of Beaver Movers. He also notices that the jacket is not the kid's size. He inquires from, "She got that jacket." Sang screams suddenly saying it's a monster, but Sion reprimands him to quiet down. He thinks if she's one of them, then he could die right now. But something feels off about her. The girl, while touching Sion's stick, says that she's not the monster, but he is. Sang wonders why the kid is talking like that, and Hei says it's one of them. Suddenly, the kid uses his power, and Sion sees a memory of his past. His big brother is lying on the bed and covered in bandages. Young Sion walks to him and cries for him not to go. Suddenly, his brother passes away and he comes back to his senses. He asks the kid what she did just now. The kid begins to imitate Sion's brother and he grows terrified. She comes towards Sion, but he smacks her with the stick. His friend gets shocked at seeing him beat the kid. Sion stands there while repeating that he wasn't the reason behind his brother's death. He pokes the kid's head to check if she's dead. Sion faces his friend and says she is definitely not a monster. However, his friends remain in utter shock upon witnessing the cold murder. Chan asks Seon if he's sure about that, as those monsters don't die easily. Back in the archery room, Mira dies and begins melting away. Shin bandages Gyu's leg, saying it will hurt a bit. She asks if he ran barefoot through the woods. She bandages his foot and Gyu thanks her. She apologizes for calling him a loser before. However, his idea of letting everyone die wasn't right. Gyu suddenly stands up and says she's no better than the bullies. Shin tells him to sit down so she can wrap his foot. But Gyu screams at her for ignoring him when he was getting bullied. He doesn't care if they all die. Shin suddenly pins him against the wall and says he's the one responsible for it as he couldn't stand against Sion. She tells him to stop acting like a coward and blaming others. Still, Gyu says that she is strong and should have at least helped him. Shin becomes annoyed and screams at him for not understanding what she's talking about. She began crying and says she's not as strong as she seems. Once she went to the roof to talk some sense into Sion. He asks what she wants from him and Shin replies she wants him to leave Gyu alone. However, Sion smiles and asks what will she do about it. Would she like to go out with him if that's the case? Shin replies she's not interested in him, and Sion makes fun of her. She turns around and leaves after saying what she wanted. He says that she's quite bold to come here alone. but she crossed the line today. One girl hits Shin in the knee, and Sion says it wouldn't be right for him to hit a girl. He tells the girls to stomp her. They start stomping her while asking where's her courage from earlier. After a good beating, Sion says, even though she's popular, they won't go easy on her. She gets good grades but isn't smart enough. He crouches down and says, since she went through that much effort, he'll offer her a condition. He'll bully Gyu until he can stand up to him and throw a punch at him. He says until then she'll remain an outcast. Jae soon wakes up from his unconsciousness and barges through a door. He pants heavily and looks for a weapon desperately. He finally gets a sword and believes it will do the work. Suddenly, a student stands at the doorway and calls out his teacher. Jae hurriedly faces him, and the students ask if it's really him. Jae sweats from fear and asks what Jong is doing here. Jae shows the mark on his shoulder, and Jong shows his on the back. Once they know it's them, they breathe a sigh of relief. Jae asks if everyone got split up and Jong agrees. Jong asks if he has any good ideas. Jae replies that they need to contact the outside world with a phone, but the phones have no signal. Jae says that a landline might work and they haven't tried it. They could find one in the employee's office, but those employees are creatures, and they would have cut off those too. Jae asks if he has a better plan than this. Jong replies that getting the attention of the outside matters most. They could get on the rooftop and light a beacon. In the archery range, Shin says that Sion added that condition because he knew you couldn't stand against him. Gyu worries for her, but Shin replies that it's her fault for becoming an outcast. Despite that, she refused to become like Sion. She couldn't let some desire for revenge turn her into a heartless monster. Gyu asks why she hadn't told him sooner. If he had known, he would have done something. But Shin replies that even if he threw a punch at Sion, he wouldn't have kept his promise anyway. That would have made things only worse for him. Gyu couldn't believe that Sion did that to her. He'll never forgive him till the day he dies. Since he has a shotgun now, Sion doesn't scare him anymore. Shin says that Sion might be scary, but he isn't as scary as those monsters. She holds his hands and says if he stood up to those terrifying monsters, then Sion is nothing compared to them. He doesn't need a gun to stand against him. He can do it with his own strength. The scene shifts to Sion moving through the grass field after killing the kid. Chan asks if she was one of those creatures. Sang replies that the way she talked was creepy as hell. He asks Chan if he trusts Sion. That kid might have been a monster, but she looked like a person. However, Sion smashed her head without a second thought. Chan says that maybe she was a monster all along. However, Sang calls him foolish. He doesn't know what Sion told him after he sent him to check the kid. Sion sent him because he wouldn't be of any use for their survival. Chan asks if he's serious about it. Hei also says that Sang is telling the truth. Sang says they can't trust Sion. He might likely kill one of them next time. The scene shifts to another student crying over her girlfriend getting killed by those monsters. Che tells him to pull himself together. Suddenly, Yong thinks that her girlfriend might be alive. He grabs Che and says that she must be alive. Che tells him that she's already dead. He saw it too. The monster put a hole in her chest and no one could survive that. Yong screams at her, saying how could be she so cold? They are talking about his girlfriend. Che finds it difficult to knock some sense back to him. Yong says he needs to go back to the gym, but Che stops him as going there will get him killed. He asks Che if she heard the gunshots fired by a loser from Class 1. He says that Gyu might be fighting off those monsters. He becomes crazy and says he could sense his girl still alive. Che tells him to calm himself down. He isn't the only one who got hurt emotionally. Yong begins crying again and talks about taking revenge on those monsters. Che thinks that Yong is pretty much useless. Suddenly, Che sees a road in front of her. She sneaks from the tree and looks around. She sees a number 3 warehouse. She points to the building next to the warehouse and says the lights are on. She wonders if somebody's inside and they could ask for help. They slowly approach it, and Che tells Yong to check on the outside while she checks inside. She comes inside the guard control room, sees the conditioner on, and wonders where everyone is. She fixes her gaze on the telephone on the table. Outside, Yong comes across a board, saying, "This is a private property." He sees multiple trucks of beaver movers aligned there. Inside, Che picks up the phone, and the voice tells him to input the security code. If they have lost the security code, then they could dial an emergency number. She presses the button for the emergency number and waits patiently. Someone picks up the call and asks the caller to state her name and department. She tries explaining that they are on retreat, but the voice insists on telling their name and department first. She explains she's a student from high school, and they were here for a retreat, but monsters showed up and started killing everyone. The voice says that this line should only be used in case of an emergency. Che wonders if it's a recorded message. She sees a guard ID and speaks his name and employee code. The voice confirms the ID and tells the caller to listen carefully to the instructions. It tells her to first open the emergency box in the guard post and acquire the level 1 key card and personal weapon with a passcode. Inside it, she'll find a box of special ammunition which contains 30 shells and a shotgun. She'll be held responsible if the weapon is lost or damaged. For step 2, she has to enter the main building after acquiring the weapon. For step 3, she will have to use the level 1 key card to activate the elevator and go down to B2. After that, she would have to proceed to the safety room. Whatever happens on the way to the safety room is the individual's sole responsibility, and that concludes the message. If they want a rescue team dispatched to their location, they should press star and pound at the same time. Young comes in and says he didn't find anything outside. Che exclaims that she did it. They can get someone to rescue them. Young asks if she called from this landline, and she replies yes. The only thing left to do is press the 2 buttons at the same time for the rescue team to arrive. When Che was about to press it, Young cut the number. She looks at him questioningly while he smiles creepily at her. A few moments earlier, Young is walking through the trucks and wonders about this place. He looks back and sees that one of the trucks has a bullet hole in the windshield. When he looks closely, he finds a dead person inside. He freaks out and starts getting away from it, unaware of the fact that someone is watching him. A voice from behind calls his name and he becomes more horrified. He sees the monster standing beside him and kills Young mercilessly. Now the same monster has shape-shifted himself to be Young. Che asks why he did that for. Young replies he thought they had taken care of all of them. But still, there was one phone left. He throws the landline and it breaks down. Che says he couldn't be the real Young and asks what happened to the real one. He tells her that it would be better if she doesn't know. He shows her the picture of 3 of them, including her, and says it must have been hard for her to be in this love triangle. After inheriting Young's memory, the monster says that real Young thought of her only as a friend. He sits down lazily on the sofa and talks about tomorrow's news headline: Students meet tragic fate at school retreat. Mysterious mass murders. Only a few students survive but with amnesia. Che asks why he's doing this. They never did anything to them. The monster replies the reason is simple. They are different from them. Che asks if they are hunting them because they are different. Young replies humans do the same thing to them. This place is not an ordinary beaver mover's branch, but something beyond her understanding. The conditioner gives chill air, and they both stare at each other. Che breaks the silence and asks why hasn't he killed her already. Young replies he doesn't want to. One of their members doesn't want humans to know of their existence, but he thinks differently. He wants her to know that creatures like them exist, and they should tremble in fear. To think that mysterious beings are living among you, looking exactly like you and hunting you. That idea is terrifying in itself. The reason he's leaving her is so she can tell the world about him. He's glad that she understood it well and tells her to leave. He'll just stay here and chill for a bit. After all, his friends just call him a coward. He wonders if it's cowardly to hide when one wants to live. He warns her if she is still around here when he wakes up, he'll kill her. Che looks at the phone and remembers about the shotgun in the emergency box. She looks at the locker and thinks about her next plan of action. She wonders if it's the same shotgun Gu used to kill monsters. She sees him snoozing and decides to go for it. She hurriedly presses the number and opens the lock. However, she doesn't see the weapon and becomes more worried than before. Yang sits up and a tentacle comes out of his forehead. He says that humans are no different after all. Che suddenly throws the chair outside, breaking the window. She steps on the ledge and jumps out of the room. She runs out and sees the road on both sides. She must avoid open spaces like these and must return to the woods. She keeps running while panting. Suddenly, Young's body gets thrown in front of her, and she stops in horror. Much to her astonishment, she sees Sion coming out of the bushes. Sion asks if she's Che, who's famous for being an athlete from Class 2. He notices the dead body beside her, raises his stick, and asks if she did that. Che is also confused about where that body came from. but Sion, without a second thought, hits her with the stick. His friend holds him down, demanding an explanation for it. However, Sion doesn't listen to them, and Che becomes more panicked. She explains that those creatures did it. They threw his body. This isn't the time to quarrel as the creature is coming. As for the creature, he enjoys their growing distrust from behind the tree. On hearing that the creature is near, others ready themselves. But nothing happens. When the creature doesn't show up, Sion inquires which creature is chasing her. Knowing the fact that Sion would definitely kill her now, she makes a run for it. Sion chases her, screaming at her to get back. Sang grabs him and explains she is not one of them. If she was a monster, they would have died. However, Sion interjects him, saying those creatures can take human form. For them, the best bet to survive is to kill all their classmates. After escaping the clutches of Sion, Che is still running through the grasses, thinking how Sion has completely lost it. Suddenly, a tentacle wraps around her neck, and the creature lifts her into the air. The creature apologizes as she knows too much and must die. He never intended to spare her life and was playing all along. He starts squeezing her neck and tells her to rest in peace. Suddenly, someone shoots at the tentacle and frees Che. Che falls unconscious and confused. Yang looks at the intruder. The kid who was supposedly killed by Sion is standing there. Yang notices the beaver mover's tag and wonders if a survivor escaped. It doesn't matter much anyway, and he attacks the kid. The kid has some special power and blocks it. Yang can't believe his attack was stopped and asks who is he. The kid increases the pressure on the tentacle and bursts it while mentioning his name to be Zero. Yang loses his right arm and sees the kid staring at him. He puffs out smoke from his mouth and escapes, leaving behind Zero and Che. The scene shifts to a teacher hiding in the bathroom. Kim is also sitting beside her. She is terrified of the silence and asks if they should look around. However, Kim declines it. This is the safest hiding place. And if they go out, they'll most likely get killed. She's ashamed to call herself a teacher when she should be protecting her students. Kim asks her a question. If she sees a drowning kid and doesn't know how to swim, would she risk her life to save the kid? The best thing to do would be to wait for the ambulance. Going in there alone would result in 2 corpses. Kim stops the conversation when she hears some footsteps. Someone opens the door and enters it. Both teachers cover their mouth to silence the noise. An peeks through the narrow gap and sees Gyu with the gun. She suddenly opens the door and Gyu gets alert. He points his gun at her while she explains she's his teacher. Gyu stays alert and calls out for Shin. Shin takes out an arrow and apologizes to her in advance for what she's about to do. Much to her horror, Shin stabs her with the arrow. She waits hesitantly for any reaction to occur. Before they came to the bathroom, they were discussing their game plan. Shin advises him to look for the other students, but Gyu isn't fond of the idea. Shin reminds him of all the pending dues he has when she saved him from bullying. Gyu agrees to her condition, and she asks if he doesn't like her. He replies that he hates her now, and Shin asks if he liked her before. Shin stops the conversation when she sees a dead kid in the corner. They rush to him and Shin asks if he recognizes him. Gyu replies he's Hyun and the vice president of his class. Shin takes out an arrow, and Gyu wonders what she's up to. She wondered if this green substance had any adverse effect on humans. If she could confirm this, then they could identify humans from those creatures. In the bathroom, Shin bandages her teacher. Nothing happened to her as she is a human. She also tested this on herself to be sure. Kim inquires if there's a weapon to kill those monsters, then some people must know of their existence. Gyu asks if she wants to tag along with them. When Kim asks where they are heading, Gyu replies to the location where they found this gun. Soon after, they reach the truck and Kim asks An to watch around for a while. Inside the truck, they inspect the pods. Shin explains that they seem some sort of capsules, but there's nothing inside it. Kim was hoping to find a weapon or something else, but it's empty. Gyu sees one of the capsules burst open from the inside and has the word 0 written on it. Shin wonders what this number means. They look inside and wonder if all those creatures came from this one capsule. Outside, An is worriedly watching around. She sees a cap lying near her and picks it up. She wonders what a hat is doing here, but drops in shock when she sees something more horrifying. She sees a man with a phone in his hand, covered in blood. She screams suddenly, and Gyu and others rush to her aid. She explains about the dead body she found. Gyu inspects the corpse while Shin tries to calm An down. Gyu wonders if this is the driver and sees the man holding a phone in his hand. He informs others about it while trying to get it out of his grasp. He taps the phone and sees the man's family. He becomes sad on seeing this but scrolls it away. Shin asks if the phone is locked, but Gyu replies it's not. She questions if it's not locked on purpose. He sees the battery at 14% and out of service symbol. He checks the recent files and finds some voice recordings. Kim hurriedly tells him to play it if he left a message before death. Gyu plays the first audio, and everyone listens intently. The voice introduces itself as Jin, the head of security of Team MM-A. He can't use his phone during the mission because one of the capsules with the name Zero has signal jamming capabilities. Zero has supernatural abilities and looks like a normal boy. Scientists consider him to be a threat to humanity. He wonders if dissecting would be a safe choice. In any case, he wants to get over this and get back to his family. He has been away for too long. This concludes the recording, and Kim asks the meaning of this. But Gyu says there's still one more. Gyu plays the second voice, and he's screaming in it. He explains that people in Area C are idiots. By the time he got there, it was already swarming with the variants. He was ordered to transport Zero from Area A to Area C, and transport variants from Area C to Area A. But he won't be able to do his duty as he got hit in the chest by one of the variants. The bleeding won't stop and he barely escaped it. The road collapsed in the heavy rain, and the truck fell into the woods. He would die soon and wants to inform the rescue team that Zero has escaped. The containment capsule malfunctioned due to the impact of the fall. Zero is extremely dangerous and should be killed on sight. Currently, the same Zero is standing in front of Che. On the other hand, the creature that ran away from Zero is resting on a rock. One asks what's 3 doing here. 3 explains he's on his last breath and dying. One asks if the shotgun boy did this to him, but he denies it. There's something else in the woods wandering around here. One asks if people from 2000 are already here, but he denies that too. He explains that he hasn't seen something like that before. He even advises One to be careful of him. One points out that his wound isn't healing, and 3 doesn't have an idea about it himself. One asks for more information about the attacker. However, 3 doesn't give him any info and tells him to face it himself. One asks if he has any last words, and 3 replies he wants revenge. One takes his word and kills 3 with his tentacle. He starts sucking his brain and gains his memories. He sees a kid stopping his attack and blowing his arm off with an invisible attack. Once he's done, 4 asks what he saw in his memories. One could see the kid has a kind of monster helping him but can't explain it in words. The closest thing he could think of is that the kid is a god. The scene shifts to Che waking up from her unconsciousness. She asks who he is and then looks around for the creature. She believes this kid could be one of them too. Zero doesn't have good communication skills and tries his best to introduce his name, but in a creepy way. Che gets frightened on seeing this and starts running again. Later, Zero notices smoke coming from somewhere. Jong and Jae have made a fire by collecting scraps and igniting them. Jae advises to leave this place as quickly as possible before the creature arrives. Gyu and his team notice it, and creatures too see it. One didn't predict humans would do something like that. He tells 4 to take care of it. He orders 7 to kill the students and teachers scattered in the woods. 7 smiles and regrows his arm. 1 gives him another task. He needs to keep one of the humans alive. 7 asks who he wants to spare. After gaining 3's memory, he found Sion beating others. He talked about killing everyone they run into. He also saw some sort of creature taking control of Sion. 1 tells him about a boy who interests him greatly. In the forest, Sion is traversing the field faster, looking for Che. Chan begs him to stop. Che is fast, and they can't catch up to her. Sion's friends become startled when they see Sion hitting a tree. He keeps hearing someone's voice, calling him a murderer. He isn't able to tolerate it any longer, and sees blood dripping from his nose suddenly. We see Sion's past. His brother was exceptional in everything and his father took a liking to him. But he never looked at Sion, even after he did his best. One day he was about to get hit with a car, but his brother interjected and saved his life while sacrificing his. Before dying, his brother said to be more careful. Young Sion sees Zero standing in front of him. Zero explains that his spirit is diseased, and he will clean it. After all, he came here to save them all. Sion's friends gather around him and wonder what they should do. Sang questions if he got infected with the monster virus. Hei explains that the monster doesn't have a virus, Something else has invaded Sion's body. The scene shifts to Jae and Zhang discovering the dead bodies on the road. They recognize the girls from the dance club. They didn't imagine that they were lying dead here. Jae points to another body lying ahead of them. The girl who has died is Hae. This means that the Hae tagging along with Sion is a monster. Her sudden change in behavior makes Sang and Chan realize that she's a monster. The scene shifts to the time when Hae was doing her best to escape. Mira was about to play with her for a while, but she was killed by another creature. The creature consumes her brain and Mira asks why she's getting in her way. The creature comes out of the corner and apologizes for not knowing she was her target. Mira asks why would she take the form of that useless girl, but she finds her cute. The creature introduces herself as Shik and she loves pranking people. Chan steps back and Shik tells him not to worry, as she isn't interested in him. She comes closer to Sion and wonders what happened to him. Something attached itself to him. She believes that he already had something like that before, and the kid awakened it in him. She finds Sion to be fascinating. She stands up and Chan and Sang ready themselves for what is to come. Shik asks if they could keep her identity a secret from Sion. If they can do that, she'll let them live. Chan agrees to her condition and begs to be spared. But she wonders if she even needs them to deceive Sion. She puts an interesting game. They should decide who gets to live between them. The scene shifts to Zero, sitting on a rock. He's going through Three's memory and sees Che finding a landline. He believes that MM might have already caught on and he should wrap things up quickly. Back to Sion's side, they become terrified when Hae tells them to decide who gets to live. She asks if both of them want to die. Chan begs her to let him live. She asks the reason for it and he replies, he simply wants to live. She finds it boring and asks Sang a reason to live. Sang gets taken aback and she asks if he got nothing in life. Sang doesn't want to beg for mercy, doing so will get his friend killed. Hae likes his boldness, but that's what gets him killed here. She strikes him with the tentacle, sparing his life with a few inches. She takes back her tentacle and says she was just messing with them. Although they aren't cute enough to absorb, they are too cute to kill. Chan bows and thanks her for sparing their life, but gets shocked when she mentions them joining forces against his classmates. She sees Sion struggling and leans over to him. The scene shifts to Gyu and his team arriving at the school. They discuss starting fire as a smart move but are unsure about who did it. Kim stops Gyu as going any further will put their life at risk. It's safer for them to stay in the woods as creatures will be going there too. Suddenly, Lee, who was hiding behind the bushes, jumps on Gyu. He pins him to the ground and demands to hand him over the gun. The fatty also follows Lee and charges at Gyu. Shin smacks the fatty, telling him to get a hold of himself. Gyu knocks down Lee with his gun. Lee lies defeated on the ground and says everyone is dead. All the kids that ran away except for him and Yob have been killed. He wants the gun to kill the monsters. Gyu gets up and sees a man coming towards them. The man is one of the creatures and Gyu tells Shin to move. She sprints out, leaving Gyu against 4. He has 8 shells in the shotgun, and Shin has 2 and 13 shells remain in the box. Suddenly, Lee grabs his gun and headbutts Gyu. He snatches the gun and claims it to be his. He fires at 4, but he evades every bullet. He closes the distance and kills Lee in one punch. 4 grabs the gun and jokes about it belonging to him now. He tells Gyu to watch closely as he crushes the gun. The scene shifts to scientists talking about the variants. They look like humans and eat human brains to survive. However, these creatures are not many and don't reproduce. They want to study these creatures because of their regenerative ability and turning brain matter into information. If they can understand these things, humanity won't have to fear death. They are experimenting on 4, calling him a god's gift to save humanity. 4 was restrained all the time and developed a deep hatred for humans. In the present, 4 got stabbed with an arrow when he was about to crush the gun. Shin aimed for the head, but she missed it. 4 calls her attempt foolish. His attention diverts to a kid playing flute in front of him. The kid is a distraction, and Jay runs to 4 from behind. He grips his sword and strikes 4 with it. 4 loosens his grip on the shotgun and Gyu catches it. Jay pushes 4 and he turns his hand into a tentacle. He soon senses mutation happening at the place where the arrow hit. He loses his arm and throws Jay back. Gyu shoots 4, but he jumps up in the air. He spoofs out smoke for the escape. Gyu asks Shin if she could see him from the top. However, the smoke's thick, and she can't see anything. It's the same thing that happened in the auditorium. They released smoke to escape from there, but Gyu still keeps his guard up if the creature is still there. Zhang screams at others to come towards him as he's standing clear of smoke. Shin notices him and tries to stop him from screaming. However, it's too late for that. 4 rushes to him. Zhang screams on seeing the man coming for him. Shin tries to save him by shooting the arrow but misses. Zhang stands there and wonders if this is his end. Gyu suddenly comes with his gun and shoots at 4. 7 sees the smoke still there and wonders why 4 is taking so long. He stands among the massacre he caused. The scene shifts to 4 talking with 7 in the lab. They are experimenting on 3 with a nano weapon that can kill them. He wonders if they will die today. 7 tells him to be optimistic as they can't lose important test subjects like them. 4 considers death to be a better option than being used as a lab rat. 7 tells him about the desk job he did from 9 to 5 and 4 replies he was a firefighter. 7 laughs at him for saving human lives which they hunt for survival. 7 calmly asks if he'll become a firefighter again after he escapes from there. 4 responds that humans are more disgusting than them and he'll kill them from now on. 7 hears 4 screaming and he rushes to help. Gyu hits 4's leg and goes to finish him off. At the same time, 4 rips off his leg to save himself from death. He grows a tentacle in place of the leg and asks if he has the guts to kill him. When Gyu is about to shoot 4, he throws his leg at him. The leg bursts and obscures his vision. 4 rushes to kill him but the teacher intervenes. She saves Gyu by pushing him and gets hit by the punch instead. She hits the tree and lays on the ground. 4 stands confused about why she put her life at risk. Gyu fires at him but he evades it. 4 makes a run and Gyu stands up to follow him. Shin stops him from going any further and Gyu understands it. He sees his teacher lying motionless on the ground. Kim tells her to hold on a bit longer, but she doesn't have the strength to endure the pain. Kim begs her not to go, and An replies she did what she thought was right as a teacher. In school, she didn't teach Gyu in any of her classes and were strangers. He can't back down now, especially after what he did to her. He follows 4 into the woods to make him pay the price. Shin jumps down from the tree and begs Gyu to stop. Zhang stops Shin from pursuing Gyu. He explains she can't do this alone and asks Jae if he'll come along. Jae agrees to it, and they go in the direction of Gyu. Gyu is running through the forest and sees the monster's blood sizzling. He reloads his gun and follows the trail. On the other hand, 4 is hurt badly and believes it will take a long time for him to heal. He curses the shotgun boy. He could have killed him if that teacher didn't intervene. 4 halts and sees a kid standing. The kid introduces himself as Zero. On hearing the name Zero, 4 immediately attacks him with his tentacle. He'll take revenge on him for killing 3. If he isn't associated with MM, then who is he? Zero replies. He's nothing but his kind doesn't have anything either. 4 notices Gyu aiming his shotgun at him. Gyu shoots him, and 4's head slides on the ground. The kid pulls out the tentacles and slumps down. Gyu approaches the kid, telling him to stay put. He sees the kid wearing a beaver mover's jacket and wonders if this jacket belongs to the dead man. Gyu remembers from the recording that Zero should be killed on sight. Gyu aims the gun at him and wonders if it's him. But seeing the injured condition, he picks up Zero. A kid like him couldn't be a monster. What was he even thinking? Suddenly a tentacle pierces through Gyu's chest. 4 made a last attempt to finish him off before dying. Gyu starts losing his balance, trips on the rock, and falls down the cliff. Soon, Gyu's friends arrive at the aftermath and call out for Gyu. Jae advises to keep her voice down as monsters could be lurking around. This is the reason why she told him not to go. Zhang notices all the blood and thinks Gyu might be dead. Shin gets annoyed and tells him to shut up. Gyu is in an unconscious state and falls deep into the ocean. With his vision getting blurred, he sees Zero coming to his aid. He wakes up suddenly and inspects his chest first, but doesn't see a hole in it. He sees to his right and Zero is staring at him. They have taken shelter in a cave, and Gyu asks why he saved him. When he doesn't get a reply, he asks if he knows how to talk. Zero in somewhat broken English replies because he helped him. Gyu asks if he killed the owner of that truck, but he denies it. The person said he's supposed to be dangerous, but he doesn't seem to be. He compliments his healing abilities and remembers that her teacher was killed by the monster. Gyu asks if he could heal her teacher as well, but Zero replies it's too late for that. Gyu asks how he knows about it, and Zero says he can feel it. He sits down and wonders why his teacher sacrificed herself. He sees Zero trembling in the cold and wraps him around with a shirt. This would keep him warm for a while now. Gyu sits back and wonders how he got tangled in this. His family doesn't know what's happening here and can't reach out to them. Gyu asks Zero's age but sees him fast asleep. He looks at Zero's bruised feet and remembers how Shin bandaged his feet. Gyu puts down his phone and stretches out the bandage. He wraps Zero's feet and feels delighted to help the poor boy. Gyu covers both of his feet and considers it a job well done. Gyu's phone suddenly gets a signal, and the previous message is sent to Crew. Crew talks about hanging together once he returns tomorrow. Gyu dials the emergency number and explains that monsters appeared at the retreat ground and are killing teachers and students. The person says they'll send someone to them, but it will take a while as a storm is coming their way and it's deep in the woods. Till then he should stay hidden in the woods. Gyu then video calls Crew and he picks it up. He asks why he is calling so late. Crew says his network quality is bad, and Gyu explains monsters with tentacles appeared and started killing people. He isn't joking about it either. However, Crew asks if he has drunk too much. Gyu then shows him the military gear and a shotgun he got. It's because of them he managed to survive so far. Crew asks him a few things. First, if he's playing some kind of late-night survival game. Second, if the bullies are making him do this. But Gyu declines both, and Crew believes him. He asks if Gyu reached out to the police, but he's afraid they'll take it as a prank call. Crew asks if he told the police about monsters and Gyu admits it. He would have been better off if he talked about terrorists showing up. He shouldn't worry much as the police will send someone anyway, Crew assures him. He'll do something about it, and the call ends suddenly. Gyu sees Zero standing beside, and now he remembers that Zero has signal jamming capabilities. The scene shifts to the police heading to the retreat grounds. They have got 2 calls from the same location. One was talking about monsters, and the other was saying armed guerrilla forces were there. Because of that report, the nearest military base was also alerted, and is on the way. The lady asks if he has a clue about what could be happening there, but he doesn't have any idea. They notice fire coming from the distance and believe something is going seriously wrong there. The girl tells Cho that the bridge is broken ahead. Cho slams the brake and the car stops narrowly. They come out of their vehicle and inspect the broken bridge. Cho informs others that the bridge to the retreat ground is broken. However, his walkie-talkie stopped working. Cho says they need to find another way in, but she points out that her phone is not working. Cho looks ahead and sees a man approaching them, and that person is the creature one. Cho asks the man how this happened to the bridge, and one replies that he found it out recently. Plus, he works at the retreat ground. They ask if something happened at the retreat ground as they received calls from there. One replies he didn't see any other disturbance other than the bridge collapsing. Cho says they got a report of a fire spreading there, so they came to check it. One replies that they were just burning some trash. Still, they need to investigate the disturbance they found and ask for the man's cooperation. Could he tell them another way to get on that side? One asks if he really wants to investigate, then that leaves him with no choice. One shoots out a tentacle from his head that wraps around Cho's neck. One talks about how their death happened because they drove off the collapsed bridge and fell into the deep river, and unfortunately, neither survived. The tentacles choke Cho, and he falls dead. Miji screams on seeing him dead and runs for the car. However, one jumps and lands on the car, shattering it completely. One explains that a threat of God level has appeared and asks for the humans' cooperation. However, Miji takes out her stun gun and shoots at him. One catches them easily between his fingers and despises humans like her. He's still happy that the food humans serve is delicious, has amazing technology and art worthy of recommendation. But there are still a lot of humans, so killing a few won't change much. Miji asks what is he, but one kills her instead. Inside the cave, Gyu scolds him that he's the reason they don't have any reception. He had it when he was fast asleep. He could just go back to sleep or knock him out for a few hours. Zero tells him to calm down and Gyu lowers his gun. Zero grabs his gun and speaks about his soul being wounded. He wonders if all of these humans are so sad. Gyu says he's not sure about it though. Zero talks about how people at and Sion were all hurt. Suddenly he senses rage coming from Gyu's body. He asks if he hates Sion so much. Gyu says that the bastard treated him badly and is nothing but a nuisance. But Zero says he felt bad about Sion too. To him, all the humans are same. He asks if he wants to be saved from this pain. He came into existence to save them all. Gyu asks how will he save them all, and Zero replies he'll kill everyone. He smiles and says he has powers to do it. Gyu also thought about killing his classmates before. But if such words are coming from a kid's mouth, then there must be something seriously wrong with him. The scene shifts to one throwing off the vehicle and the officers in the river. He sees smoke still coming out and wonders why 4 hasn't sorted out that matter. The scene shifts to Sion waking up suddenly. Sang explains that his nose started bleeding and he collapsed. Hei is glad he's awake. They spent a lot of time here and must move. A storm is coming this way, so they should hurry. Sion agrees to it, and they start climbing the cliff. Sang thinks they are screwed. The monster wants them to join forces. Also, Sion is acting weirdly as if something got inside him. He hopes Sion won't turn into a zombie or something. They hear the rustling of bushes and stop trekking. Sion could feel something ahead and tells Chan to check for it. Chan complains, but Sion scolds him. He finally agrees to it and wonders why he is always the one. He reaches the top and sees Shin pointing an arrow at him. She asks if he's one of them, but he denies it. Shin takes him as a hostage and says she's glad they are doing okay. Chan complains that it's hurting his skin, so she takes out the arrow and stabs his arm with it. Sion, surprised, asks what she's doing with him. She's checking if Chan's a monster or not. The arrow she's holding is covered with a deadly poison that kills creatures. If any one of them is a monster, then they'll have a reaction. She asks if they have seen Gyu. Sion asks why she's looking for him. Shin supposes that his being alive means he hasn't met Gyu. Jae apologizes for doing this to them, but they should check everyone to confirm. However, Sion says they might be monsters pulling tricks on them. Jong scolds him for talking to his teacher like that. Sion replies, if even he's a teacher, it doesn't matter with what's going on here. Plus, how dare he talk like that to him? Jong replies, being a bully won't help him when he faces a monster. Shin asks if Sang will cooperate. Sang agrees and steps up for it, but Sion stops him. He says anyone who listens to her will die. Jae asks if something has gotten into Seon, but Yong says he's always been a bully like that. Jae thought he was a model student, and Yong thinks if all the teachers were living under a rock. Seon tells Sang to stand down, but he ignores him and goes up. He comes to Shin and asks if she can really kill a monster with that. Shin replies if he's thinking about taking it away, then he can forget about it. However, he wants to know her answer. She explains she used the liquid from Gyu's shotgun shells and it causes mutation in creatures. Sang trusts her and says that Hei is a monster. Suddenly, a tentacle attacks Shin on the forehead and kills her. Sang looks behind and sees that Hei has killed all his friends. He looks at Hei, showing a creepy smile. She hurls a tentacle at Sang and kills him as well. However, it turns out that Sang was just imagining about it. Shin asks what he wants to talk about. Sang becomes nervous and starts fumbling his words. He thinks that if he tells Shin that Hei is a monster, and Shin doesn't kill her in one shot, then they will all die. He thinks that she hasn't tried to kill anyone of them yet, so it might be worse to reveal her identity and cause a scene. He looks at Chan, and he tells him to keep it a secret as well. Sang thinks it's better not to say about it and says she's lucky to have that weapon. Shin replies, "What's wrong with him?" He had her worried for a second. Sang says that he just makes a fuss over nothing. Chan also chimes in and says that he's an idiot. Shin wonders what's wrong with these two weirdos. As for Hei, she keeps staring at them blankly. Jae tells them to listen up. He suggests they move in a group. Now that they have met like this, it'll be more effective to get out of this place. Sion replies, why should they work with them if they think of them as monsters, especially if they want to stab their arms with arrows? Sion says that they aren't sure if they are monsters or not. Jong tells Jae that they have nothing to gain by working with these jerks. Sion asks Chan and Sung if they want to come back down. He asks if they are ditching him. Chan replies that it's quite hurtful to hear him talk like that. He says they would never do something like that. Chan rushes back down and says he's coming. Sang was about to tell her something but stopped himself. All of them make their way down the slope again. Jae wonders if they will be okay. Shin replies that something feels off about them. Sang is the right-hand man of Sion. Regardless of what he feels, he does whatever Sion tells him to do. But when Sion told him not to go, he ignored him and walked straight to them. Plus, he just said that he felt lucky for her. Jong also says that it sounds weird. Suddenly, he remembers seeing the dead body of students. He recalls that one of those dead bodies was of Hei. He thinks that the girl looked similar to Hei. Jay tells Jong to come along and he agrees. He takes a look at Hei once again and wonders if he has seen her. 7 soon comes to the area of the fight. He looks at the sizzling fluid and wonders if 4 is dead. An eye pops out of the flesh and says he's not dead, but soon he'll be. 7 says that he doesn't give up easily and asks what happened. 4 says that he met the god. 7 asks if he did this to him. However, 4 replies that the shotgun boy did this to him. 7 asks if it's that boy again, and 4 reply that he took care of him. He says that he stabbed him through the chest. Before dying, 4 tells 7 that the god said that they don't have anything in them. 7 asks. 4 replies that he doesn't know. He can't figure out what they don't have. 7, instead of answering his question, asks where the god went. 4 tells him to see it for himself. He sees 7 hesitating and tells him to just do it. 7 agrees to his request and says it was quite fun with him. After consuming 4's memory, 7 approaches the cliff from where the god fell. He says he'll find him and will tear him apart limb by limb. The scene shifts to 0 holding Gyu's gun. Gyu tells 0 that he can't kill everyone. 0 looks confused and asks if that's not what he wants. Gyu replies negatively, saying nobody wants that. Gyu tries to recall a famous saying and he remembers it. He says that life may be crap, but it's better than being 6 feet. Suddenly, 0 tells him to wait. He says that they are here. 7 shows up and becomes surprised on seeing the shotgun boy alive. He asks if it's the god's power that healed him. 7 impales his tentacles on the rocks in front and smiles creepily. He starts breaking the cave, causing rocks to fall. Gyu becomes horrified on seeing it, and 7 says that he'll bury them alive here. Gyu fires his gun at 7, but he blocks the shots with a rock. He says that it was a good try. 7 throws the rock at Gyu, and Gyu freezes in fear. Suddenly, an invisible barrier stops the rock, thus saving Gyu's life. 0 is the one who did this, and 7 becomes more frustrated. 0 extends his hands into the air and blasts 7 away with force. Gyu sees the rock falling and grabs 0 to escape out of the cave. However, Gyu trips on a rock and rolls on the ground. The rock soon falls and covers the cave entrance. Gyu looks back and sees that 0 has been crushed under the rocks. 7 comes out of the bushes and claps for Gyu. He commends him on doing a good job. Gyu asks what he's talking about. 7 says that if he didn't try to drag him out of there, he would have been able to save himself. Gyu replies that's not true. 7 tells him to get out of his way as he wants to ask that god something. However, Gyu points his gun and tells him to stay back. 7 says that he has quite some spirit. He vanishes from the spot where he was standing. Gyu focuses and sees the grasses swerving to one side. He senses something coming from the bushes. He aims his gun in that direction, but 7 comes out from behind. Gyu notices him, and 7 smirks. When 7 was crouched in the grasses, he extended his arm to set up a decoy. He sent his arm through the bushes, making the illusion that he would attack him from there. At present, 7 attacks Gyu, while he defends himself with the gun. He knocks out Gyu and his gun. Gyu falls on the ground, and 7 says that it's surprising that he blocked it. He says that he has made his decision now. He's going to eat his brain. Suddenly, an arrow strikes 7's arm. 7 looks behind and sees Gyu's teammates are rushing for his help. 7 thinks that it's that girl again. The place where the arrow hit 7 begins to mutate. His shoulder bursts up, causing him pain. He thinks that he just regenerated it, and starts running away from them. Shin approaches Gyu while he struggles to get up. She hugs him, saying she's glad to see him alive. Gyu becomes a bit blushed on the hug. Jong says that they thought he was dead. Gyu takes them to 0 crushed under the rock. Shin asks if that's him, and Gyu agrees. Gyu says that they can work together to move the rocks. He asks Jay if he can help them as well. Jay replies that he'll do it. However, Shin tells them to stop. She asks Gyu if he heard what that recording said. She holds the arrow and says that 0 is to be killed on sight. However, Gyu stops Shin by grabbing the arrow. Gyu says that he's just a kid, plus he saved his life. She asks how he saved his life from those monsters. Gyu replies that he has healing powers. Shin asks what type of healing powers, and Gyu says that it's hard to explain. He says that 0 can heal fatal wounds. One of the monsters put a hole in his chest, and 0 healed him. He should have died as the tentacle went through his chest. He shows him the ripped shirt, marking his statement true. Zhang becomes amazed and says that he's a healer. Gyu says that he also has telekinetic powers as he blocked the boulder that the monster threw at him. Zhang says that it's awesome. However, Shin stares at him with sharp eyes. She looks at Zero and thinks that his power could be useful to them. Gyu chimes in and says that's right. Shin also adds that it's only possible if he's on their side. Gyu remembers that Zero said that he has the ability to kill them all. Shin says that the recording warned them that Zero is dangerous. So, they can't let him live. Suddenly the boulders fly in the air and they become shocked. Zero emerges out of it and stands in front of them. He slams the rock back and approaches them. Zero raises his hands in front of Shin and looks at her without blinking. Gyu comes in between them and says that she's her friend. He further says that it's just a misunderstanding on her part. She's a good person, so he should put down his hand. However, Shin aims her arrow at him. She says that he must be dangerous if he's this worried about him. Zero looks at the green liquid smeared on the tip of the arrow. He remembers the horrifying pain that those green liquids caused him in the lab. He blasts her away with force, and she hits a tree. Shin coughs out blood on impact and falls on the ground. Gyu comes running for her, and Jay also becomes concerned as well. He tells Zero that he's a monster. He charges at Zero with his sword, but Zero slices off both his arms. Seeing his teacher in danger, Zhang also rushes to attack, but Zero twists his legs. Gyu holds Shin and tells her to get up. She tells him to stop shaking him as she can't feel her legs. Gyu looks back and sees that both Jay and Zhang are in severe pain. Zero starts approaching Gyu and Gyu points his gun at him. He begs Zero not to do this. Zero comes close to him and touches Gyu's gun at his head. Gyu closes his eyes as he can't do this. He lowers his gun and says he can't shoot him. His powers are frightening, but he used those powers to save him twice. He can't forget his help. He pats Zero and asks to help him this time, so that he won't forget him. Zero remembers his past life. He suddenly opened his eyes one day and found himself in an alleyway. He roamed in the streets naked and the people looked at him strangely. He wondered if he was supposed to wear fabric, but where could he get some? A lady approaches him and puts a cloth on him. She says that she doesn't know what happened to him, but he might catch cold if he walks around like that. Zero thought that he met a human by chance who was so kind to him. However, something felt off about her. He saw that her soul was diseased. The woman took Zero with him and showered him first. She asked if he can talk and if he goes to school. However, Zero just stayed silent. He thought that she was such a good person. Then why was her soul diseased? The woman's husband comes back home and shouts at her for bringing another stray in. Plus, she brought him clothes and food. He says that she must have some hidden stash somewhere and orders her to bring it to him. He shoves her down and tells her to give it to him. She asks why she should give it to him as he'll gamble it away. He says that it's none of her business, and asks how she dared to talk back to him. He looks at Zero and wonders why she picked up this dirty street rat. As for Zero, he just keeps staring at him, and the man asks what he's looking at. Does he have a death wish? Zero thinks that he now understands why her soul is diseased. The man goes to punch Zero, but his wife tries to stop him, saying he's just a kid. The man beats her and says that she brought a homeless kid when she barely cares for her husband. Zero wonders what's wrong with this man. He sees that he too has a diseased soul. Zero extends his hand towards the man and thinks about helping him. He thought he needed to stop it from getting worse. He kills the man and his wife cries over his corpse. She asks why he did that, and just who is he? She called him a monster and told him to bring back his husband. Zero ran away from there as he didn't know what to do. He didn't understand why she resented him. All he did was to help them both. Later, Zero is sitting in the park. Some boys approach him and ask if he's homeless, or if he ran away from home. They ask if he heard them or not. If he comes with them, then they'll feed him and give him a place to sleep. They took him to a place and said that he needs to work for the comfort he's getting. Some girls were chilling outside the place where Zero was. Zero enters the place and a girl takes hold of him by his head. She drags him along with her and starts beating him. Her friends say that she's doing it again. They guess that her father tried to call her back or something. Zero looks at them and sees that all of them have diseased souls. The boys who kidnapped Zero come to check and remain surprised. They see that the kid has killed everyone and he's standing there. Zero thought that he had figured out the reason for his existence. He sees that these guys also have diseased souls and says he feels bad for them. He kills them all and walks away. Later, some officers are rushing to a place. They take cover behind the door and open it with a bang. They see a man coming towards them with tentacles coming out of his body. He begs them to help him. But the armed man says that he's a variant and they have to capture him alive. They were about to fire at the man, but he slumped on the ground. The officers wonder what's wrong with him. They turn on the flashlight and see a boy standing among the massacre. They wonder what a kid is doing there, and if he's the one who killed all those variants. They report to HQ that they found a boy here. The man comes into a bar and the bartender asks how he could help them. The man replies that it's good to see him, and he's healthy as ever. The bartender says that he heard that they got a rare catch and everyone's talking about it. He presses a button and a door opens beside him. It was the place that Zero was taken into. They treated him like a lab rat. The place where Zero was held had his food delivered by a lady. He thought that she was the only person who showed her kindness at the research facility. She read him stories, but he felt that she was no exception. She was diseased, just like others. Before she leaves, Zero tells her to wait. He holds her hand and thinks about giving her a gift as she was kind to him. He awakens something inside her and says, "This will be salvation." Later she's working on a report when her nose starts bleeding. She quickly rushes to the washroom and wonders why this is happening to her all of a sudden. Her colleague also asks if everything is all right, as she isn't looking well these days. She replies that she's fine. Later, she's making a report when her nose starts bleeding again. She collapses and her colleagues grow worried for her. The man discusses that she hasn't been coming to the lab lately. Plus, they aren't able to contact her as well. The bartender suggests that someone should go and check on her. A man says that he'll stop by her house then. He soon reaches her apartment in a downpour. He rings her doorbell but doesn't get a response. He thinks that it's quite weird as this app says that she's inside. He places a keycard and opens the door. He goes through her house and feels tense. He looks at the door with her son's name written on it. He opens it and asks if she's in there. However, he becomes horrified when he sees a cocoon growing in there. Zero thought that he gave her the world she wanted, a world where she could spend time happily with her dead son. He hopes that she would find happiness inside there. In Zero's imagination, he sees Gyu standing in front of him. At present, Gyu tells him that this is not happiness. Shin, while being injured, asks what he's doing. In Zero's imagination, Gyu takes him along on a long road. He says that it may be hard for him to understand, but everyone gets sick at one time or another. But even so, people keep living on despite their diseases. It's better than living with a false happiness. Zero asks what false happiness means, and Gyu wonders how he should put it. He thinks that Shin would have been able to explain this easily, but it's hard for him. Gyu ponders over it and tells Zero to take him as an example. He hated his life, and was picked on every day. His father was the only person that could have protected him, but he's sick and stuck in bed. Eventually, the only thing he wanted was his life to end. Zero asks if that's the reason his soul is diseased, and Gyu replies that's right. However, he never tried to end his life. Doesn't he think that it's strange? Zero admits that it's strange. Gyu says that what he wanted wasn't to die, but get revenge. Zero asks if he wants revenge against Sion, and Gyu agrees. He also realized that Sion is not much of a big deal after fighting those monsters. Zero asks if he'll still get revenge on him. Gyu replies that he will. When he gets the chance, he'll land a clean punch on his face. Zero says that he shouldn't die until that chance comes, and Gyu somewhat agrees to it. He tells Zero that anyone can have a diseased heart, but that doesn't mean their life is worthless. Even people with sick souls have dreams, and there's always a chance they could stand up again and overcome their illness. What he means is that he shouldn't force happiness onto people, as that happiness won't be real. People will find happiness without his help. Also, not everyone would succeed at finding it. But that's what makes happiness worth much more. He asks Zero if he got that, and Zero agrees. He asks if he won't hurt anyone, and Zero replies he won't do it. Gyu becomes happy, and asks if he could help out his friends then. Zero replies that he'll definitely do that. He uses his power to heal Shin. Jay's sliced arms start crumbling away, and he cries over them disappearing. He suddenly sees his arms glowing, and they recover completely. He shouts out Christ's name, saying this is magic. Zhang's feet also heal up, and he's amazed as well. Gyu thanks Zero, and Zero replies that it's nothing. He then asks the reason for his existence. Gyu becomes puzzled, and Zero asks why he came into this world. Gyu pats him, and says that he didn't come into being, he was born here. It doesn't matter about the reason for his existence. People usually don't think about the way they lead their lives. He should just enjoy it. Zero asks, what does he mean by enjoying life? He also asks Gyu if he could be his friend. Can he help him find enjoyment in his life? Gyu puts on a happy face and says he will. Zero becomes happy on hearing those words. Suddenly a tentacle stabs Zero in the back. It slices off Zero into multiple pieces. One comes in and says that there are more left than he expected. He says that their fate lies with this god, and that is to die. The scene shifts to Ms. Kim and Fatty. Fatty asks why they aren't coming back. Kim replies that she doesn't know. Fatty asks if they should make a run for it. It's scary to wait here. Kim asks what he wants her to do. She doesn't know it herself. She says that being a teacher here doesn't mean anything. She didn't want to come to this dump and told them about going somewhere else. She stomps on Lee's corpse and says that it was all his plan to come here. Fatty grows terrified of her as she trash talks about Lee. Fatty tries to stop her, asking what she's doing. Suddenly they hear some rustling in the bushes. They grow terrified, wondering if a monster is lurking in there. However, it's Che who comes out of the bushes. The scene shifts to military trucks going to the retreat ground. A soldier yawns, and his teammate says that he looks tired. He complains that there are communist guerrilla forces in that place. He can't believe he's up at this ungodly hour. The driver suddenly gets a phone call and he picks it up. He informs his commander that they have just left the base. The commander tells them to return at once, and he obliges. He ends the call and tells his teammate to turn the truck around as they are returning to base. He says that communist thing was all a hoax. At the place of Zero's death, his limbs start crumbling. His limbs vanish from that spot, and he regenerates his body. He gets up naked and tells Gyu to run. He blasts one with force, but he just stays at his place as his legs are fixed to the ground. He gets back and asks if that's all he has. He then starts going deeper into the rock. Zero once again shouts at Gyu to run. Multiple tentacles come out from the ground, attacking all of them. Zhang's leg gets grazed by it and he screeches in pain. Jay gives him support and tells him to hang in there. They suggest moving out of here quickly. Shin asks Gyu what he's doing. This isn't their fight, so he should snap out of it. He looks at Zero and wonders what he should do. Gyu decides to run, and Zero waves at them. All the tentacles rush towards Zero and he barely manages to defend himself against the combined tentacles. At the same time, some special soldiers are approaching the retreat ground. The in-charge says that the police and military have gotten the message. So, they need to move quickly. The soldier says they will be there in no time and starts crossing the destroyed bridge. A soldier says that they aren't able to take hold of Area C. He believes it must have collapsed along with the shelter. The in-charge calls them as incompetent idiots. He instructs Alpha Team to burn down Area C as soon as they cross it. A soldier shows him the detailed information about the high school students that came to the retreat grounds. He asks how reliable this is, and the soldier replies that they checked the school database, financial records, and social media. The in-charge wonders how many of them would be alive by now. He tells the Bravo team to move quickly as they have to finish this before sunrise. He wants everyone involved in this incident eliminated. The scene shifts to Zero evading the tentacles. He uses his power and lifts a giant mass of soil with tentacles in it. He crushes it with force and slams it onto the ground. Suddenly, some cracks start appearing on the boulder and it soon breaks open. Out of it, one appears with his tentacles. He asks how a god can be so foolish. He's unimaginably powerful. But why would he befriend such stupid humans? He asks if it wouldn't be better if he became friends with him. Zero replies that he doesn't have a soul. He blasts off one's arm with telekinesis. However, one regrows his arm back again. He says that he has a secret weapon that others don't know about. He has absorbed a lot of humans, but he has absorbed even more of his kind. As a result, his power surpasses that of others. Zero blasts off his other arm once again. One says that he could regenerate it once again, but that doesn't mean he can regenerate infinitely. He unleashes tentacles from both sides, and Zero defends himself just in time. One says that the same applies to him as he can't use his power infinitely. Suddenly, someone fires an arrow at one, and he dodges it. One notices that the girl and Shotgun Boy are coming back. He wonders what they are planning to do by coming back. Earlier, they were running for their lives, and Gyu suddenly stopped running. He feels a nosebleed coming. Shin asks if he's all right as his nose is bleeding. Gyu slumps on the ground and Shin worriedly goes to him. Gyu thinks that it has already started. He remembers what he saw in Zero's memory. He wonders if he would turn into one of those things. Shin asks what he's talking about, and Gyu replies that he needs to help Zero. Shin asks what he means. and Gyu replies that Zero is the only one who can stop this. He gets back up and says that Zero must not die. At present, Gyu fires his gun at the pile of tentacles and saves Zero's life. One with an angry-looking Muzan face says that he has enough of him and his shotgun. He throws a projectile at Gyu, but Zero defends him with his barrier. Gyu starts making his way forward and shoots one at point-blank range. At the same time, one strikes Gyu with his tentacles in the stomach. Gyu stumbles down and one's body starts mutating. He soon bursts into multiple pieces, and his limbs scatter on the ground. Shin comes running towards Gyu, asking if he's all right. Gyu feels immense pain at the place he got hit. Zero approaches him and extends his hand towards him. He then starts healing Gyu. Gyu gets up and becomes amazed on seeing that he's completely fine. He tells Shin that Zero is on their side. Shin apologizes and says she had the wrong idea about him. She gives him her jacket and thanks Zero for saving them. Zero smiles and says no problem. They walk back to the others and Gyu asks Zero if he could heal one of his friends. He replies he can do it, and they make their way forward. As for one, he transfers his body to the ground by tentacles from his legs. The vine snaps and he emerges out of the ground. The scene shifts to the rooftop where the fire was lit. Seven takes care of the fire by extinguishing it. He looks at the sky and thinks that it's about to rain. He believes he did all of that work for nothing. He sees a cigarette lying on the floor and decides to pick it up. He ignites it by a burning log. He sits on the edge of the roof and smokes in peace. He looks at the photo of his friends and misses them. He swears that he'll avenge all of them by killing that shotgun boy. Suddenly, he senses a red mark appearing on his forehead. He turns around and thinks that two M's are here. The sniper shoots at him, thus killing 7 in one shot. At the same time, Sion and his team find some soldiers taking away the students. Sang asks if they are from the military, and Chan says they are here to save them. Hei asks if he's sure about that. The soldier aims his gun at the students, and Sion feels something off. The soldier opens fire at the students and kills both of them. He confirms their identity by matching their face with the records given to them. Chan shouts what that was, and if those bastards shot down students. Sion tells him to shut up to not draw attention. The soldier notices some sounds from the bushes, and they hide themselves. A soldier asks what's wrong and he replies that he heard something in the woods. They start approaching the bushes with caution. Hei calls out to Chan and apologizes to him for what she's about to do. She tosses Chan outside of the bushes. Chan grows worried when the soldier sees him. Hei then starts making a run for her life. Seon and Sang also follow her close by. The soldier aims their flashlight at him and Chan begs for mercy. The soldier scrolls through his phone to look for his identity. He confirms that he's a student 21 from Class A Chan. They aim their gun at him, and Chan begs them not to do it. The soldier scans him and it says that he's clean. Chan asks if it's clean, then everything must be good. This means that he isn't infected. The students they executed before must be infected. That's why they had no choice but to kill them. However, the soldier doesn't give him a response. Chan grows horrified and begs for mercy. However, the soldier kills him. Sion is running at full sprint to escape from the soldiers. Sang tells him to stop as they have lost them. Sion stops and pants heavily. Hei also says that he's right. Sang asks why she threw out Chan. Hei gives him a serious stare and Sang grits his teeth in fear. Sion asks why she pushed Chan out. Hei replies that if she didn't do that, they would have been all dead. Sion asks if she was so cold-blooded from the start. Sang says that she is, as she's one of those monsters. Hei tells Sang that he's quite a blabbermouth. She asks if doesn't he remember what she'll do if they revealed her true identity. Hei takes out her tentacles and wraps them around Sang's neck. She says that she'll have to kill him now. She tells Sion to make a decision here. She asks what they should do with this blabbermouth. Sion asks, since when she was a monster. She replies she was from the start. She asks how she should kill him. Should she snap his neck? Sion tells her to wait. She just said that if Song told him about her true identity, then she would have no choice but to kill Song. He asks if there's a reason why she was hiding her identity from him. Hei thinks that Sion is curious about that thing at a time like this. Sion replies that he understands it now. She has no intention of killing him from the start. Hei smiles, and says that he seems quite confident of himself. She lets go of Sang, and he breathes a sigh of relief. Hei tells Sion that something awakened in his body. It's something that they don't have. Sion asks what she means by that, and Hei replies that she isn't sure herself. However, she's dying to know what will happen when it matures. That's why she'll protect him till then. She also adds that there's one condition to that. Sion asks what the condition is, and Hei says it's the condition that she'll protect him. She points at Sang and tells Sion to kill him. Sion asks if she's serious, and Hei replies that she's damn serious. Sion asks why he should kill him, and Hei replies that she just doesn't like them. Sion says, if that's the case, then why doesn't she kill him herself? Sang grows horrified on hearing it. Hei replies that it wouldn't be fun if she did it. She orders him to do it now. Sang tries to convince Sion not to do it. However, Sion says that he doesn't have a choice as he heard her. He tells Sang that he secretly hates him. He must have imagined this thing to happen before. He tells Sang to bring it on. They'll fight like real man. Hei says that she loves fights between sad losers. Sion lunges at Sang with the stick. However, Sang blocks the attack. Sion whispers to Sang to run. He asks if didn't he hear him, he has to run now. Sang starts running away, and Sion smacks Hei with the stick. Hei loses her balance and falls on the ground. Sion gets on top of her and starts bashing her head. He says that nobody tells him what to do and nobody calls him a loser. Hei kicks him and Sion falls back. She gets up and calls him an insolent cockroach. She grabs Sion by the neck and lifts him into the air. She says that he overestimated his value and crossed a line. She'll now have to kill him. She starts tightening her grip on the neck and Sion starts transforming into a monster. Hei wonders how he's still holding on. She wonders if that thing within him is making him strong. She tosses Sion back, and he struggles on the ground. She calls it amazing, and wonders what will happen if she absorbs him. She questions whether she should absorb him now or wait until he's more ripe. She can't decide. Suddenly, one comes from behind and says, "Long time no see." He asks if she has been running around and causing mischief. He says that she seems to be having fun and asks what's going on here. She says that's not important, and tells him to look at the boy. Can't he feel something inside him, as if it became self-aware? There's something in his consciousness with its own will. She says it has to be something powerful, something like a god. One tells her to stop explaining. He extends a tentacle from his forehead and says that it's not necessary. He stabs Hei in the forehead and starts sucking her brain. She asks why he is doing this to her. One replies that he has taken damage and needs to heal. This is the only way. He removes his tentacles and she lies on the ground, dead. Sion says that a monster killed another monster. That's crazy. One asks Sion if he should be surprised by this. Even humans try to devour one another. Sion wonders how he knows his name. One says that the boy he has been tormenting, his soul has also awakened. However, his awakening progress is much slower than his. Plus, his shotgun is quite bothersome to deal with. Sion wonders if it's true that Gyu has a shotgun. One creeps over him and says he'll now eat his brain for that. Back to Gyu's team. Zero heals Zhang's leg, and he becomes amazed. He tells Zero that he has such a cool name. Also, as they have him on their side, they have nothing to worry about. Shin asks Zero if he could take a look at Gyu. Something is not right with him and his nose is bleeding. She believes it's related to him somehow. Gyu tells Shin not to press Zero much. He'll ask him later. Suddenly, they notice that it has begun to rain. The rain becomes heavy, and they lament that it's happening again on the same night. They see a cave entrance under the thunderstorm. Jay informs his team that there's a big boulder over there. He suggests going there to avoid the rain. They soon take cover inside it and put down their stuff. Shin says that things aren't looking good. They can't get out of the mountains in this storm. Gyu says that the monsters will also have trouble getting around here too. Zero's interest peaks in the instrument Yang is cleaning. He tells Zero that it's a recorder and asks if it's his first time seeing it. He asks if he wants to hear. Shin says that he'll attract monsters if he plays it. Yang says that the rain will drown out the noise, so there's nothing to worry about. Also, he'll only play it a tiny bit. Shin sees Zero's eyes, dazzling at the instrument. She sighs and says he can play it. Zhang starts playing it, and everyone finds comfort in hearing it. He completes the song and asks Zero what he thinks about it. Zero gives him a thumbs up and says it's nice. He says he feels like a wandering minstrel. Gyu says that he just played an OST from Mariah the Sky. Zhang asks if he knows this song. Gyu replies he does. He knows someone who's obsessed with Maria. Zhang extends his hands and says he's quite happy to meet another Maria geek here. Gyu replies that he isn't a Maria geek. Gyu shakes hands and says he's from Class A. Zhang says that he knows him. He's Sion's punching bag. Zhang apologizes for what he just said now. He's also sorry for not helping him earlier. Gyu says that it's all right as they aren't in the same class. Shin stares at Gyu, and Gyu blushingly asks what's wrong. Shin replies nothing. Jong says that he'll now play next Maria Ost, and Shin tells him to cut the crap. Jae tells them to get some sleep as they must be exhausted. He'll keep watch until then. The rain pours heavily, and they all sleep on the hard rock. Gyu, while sleeping, enters the dream world. In his dream, he sees Zero standing in front of him. The god asks Zero what he'll do with the people with the diseased souls. Gyu sees Earth in front of Zero and becomes shocked. He suddenly jolts up from his dream and sees that his friends have turned into cocoons. He looks around and finds Zero. He asks what he has done. Zero replies that everything is okay, and Gyu asks, "Then, why has everyone turned into a cocoon?" Zero replies that their turning into a cocoon wouldn't happen. Gyu breaks through the second layer of dream and enters reality. Zero tells him not to worry as he made a promise with him. Gyu asks if he'll also turn into a cocoon. Zero pats his shoulder and says he won't turn into one. However, he can't put an awakened soul back to sleep. Gyu asks what will happen to him then. Zero replies that he'll be a special case. The scene shifts back to Sion and One. Sion grabs One's tentacle before it stabs his head. One says that he's quite interesting. Sion's soul starts turning into a monster, and he starts losing himself. Back to Gyu, Zero tells him that if a diseased soul encroaches his consciousness, then he'll no longer be himself. Gyu asks what he means by no longer being himself. Zero says that the diseased soul has dark desires, and those desires take over the body. Gyu asks if a diseased soul will take over him as well. Zero says that everything is resolved inside the cocoon. However, it's not possible for him now. Gyu asks if things can't go back the way they used to be. He asks Zero why he woke up his soul. Does the same thing go for Shin, Jae, and Jong? Zero replies, they will be fine, and Gyu asks why he chose him then. Zero shows him the memory of when he fell down from the cliff. Zero says that he knew from the moment he saw him. His soul was severely diseased. He healed him back then and saw his memories of getting revenge on everyone. He thought that he was a monster from within. However, he wanted to save him, and that's all there's to it. But they met once again, and after talking to him, he realized something. He was a little different from his previous self. That's when he knew that it doesn't matter whether a soul is diseased or not. Even if someone is a monster, doesn't mean what will happen in the future. Gyu once again sees Zero in front of the god. The god asks what he will do to the desires of diseased souls. Zero replies that he wants to give them a chance. Back to Sion, One calls him interesting for catching the tentacle. Sion mutates his arm and chops off the tentacle. One becomes surprised and asks what he feels right now. Sion replies that he feels that he could slaughter anyone and anything. He starts laughing wildly and One grows serious. He tells Sion to give it a try. Sion becomes serious and dashes towards him. As he was sprinting, tentacles emerge out of the ground and bind him down. He asks what this is and why it's coming from the ground. One says that his strength and stamina have skyrocketed, but it's not enough to kill him. He extends his tentacle from his forehead and tells him not to mind what he's about to do. Sion grows horrified, and One senses someone pointing at him. He thinks that those Double M's dogs are here. The soldier fires his gun and One evades narrowly. One increases his focus and finds his location behind the rock. He suddenly jumps up into the air and lands behind the soldier. The soldier fires his handgun at him, but normal bullets don't make a dent on One. He inspects a bullet and sees that they aren't able to put venom inside handguns yet. The soldier keeps firing his gun at him, and One kills him mercilessly. One takes hold of the soldier's sniper with his tentacles and crushes it. He thinks about keeping his guard up as the have managed to put venom into their sniper now. He comes back to the place where Sion was and sees that he has escaped. He smirks and says that luck seems to be on his side. The rain pours heavily, and Gyu's team is taking cover in the cave. Shin asks Gyu how many shells he has left. Gyu says that he has 3 in chamber and 5 in the box. That makes a total of 8 shots. After loading the shots, he has 8 shots in the gun, and no more left. Yang hopes that 8 shots would be enough to get through. Yang hears someone snoring loudly, and sees Jae sleeping in front. Yang asks if they should wake him up, and Shin replies to let him sleep as he's also exhausted. Jong wonders how everyone else is doing in their class. Shin asks if he's worried about Che. Gyu asks who Che is. Shin says that she's their school field star. Also, Jong has a crush on her. Shin says that it's quite bad for him as Che likes Young. Jong asks how she could like that goofball. Gyu asks if they are talking about the girl with green hair. He remembers that it was because of her that Shin finished second in the relay race. Jong says that's her girl, and Shin replies he's not even dating her. He says that Che must have survived as she's incredibly fast. Suddenly Zero approaches him and says he's right. Jong asks Zero if he saw Che. Zero replies he did, and she's still alive. As for Che, they are making their way through the forest. Ms. Kim asks if this is the way to shelter, and Che replies it is. They hop down from the edge and go towards the shelter. Fatty says that it doesn't look very inviting. Che asks if he wants to stay out here alone. The trio then make their way through it. Fatty says that lights are on in that room, and Che replies that there's nothing in it. She notices some fresh footprints and wonders if they were here before. Kim looks around and sees multiple beaver movers' trucks lined up. She suddenly exclaims that she has seen the same truck before. She replies she saw them in the woods. The soldier also reached the crashed location of the beaver mover truck and sees the dead driver. They inspect the inside and see that Zero has escaped. The soldier asks what they should do now, as this is bad. The in-charge tells them to give him the files on Zero. The soldier gives him the file and he reads Zero's details. The in-charge says that he looks like a normal kid to him. The soldier tells him to look at the special note at the bottom. He presses the special note tab and sees a video recording. The video shows that Zero has the ability to lift boulders up to 15 tons within 33 feet. The next test is with a machine gun. Zero blocked all the bullets and destroyed the gun after. Next test is to destroy him with explosives. However, he regenerates again, and this concludes his third ability, regeneration. When Zero stays awake, the phone loses connection. The signal jamming stopped when the subject went to sleep. Fifth is the cocoon formation. The subject can turn a human into a cocoon, and the shell can't be opened with any equipment. Sixth is consciousness. The subject can connect through direct or indirect body contact. Seventh is voice. The subject has vocal cords different from humans. He reads the solution and sees he has an antagonistic relationship with variants, and is called the Agent of Gods among the research staff. The in-charge smirks and says that his name, Agent of God, has a nice ring to it. Che's group soon approaches the shelter. They open a door and wonder if this is supposed to open. They see an elevator in front and approach it. Fatty points out that it needs a key card. Che looks at the card he got from before and thinks about trying it. She takes out the card, and Fatty asks if that's the thing. Suddenly, Ms. Kim notices that the elevator is coming up. They become horrified and wonder who it could be. Back to Zero. He tells them that he saw Che. Shin asks if he's sure about that. Gyu suddenly points out that Zero knew about Ms. On's death. He asked how he knew about it, and Zero replied that he could feel it. Gyu asks Zero if he can sense things like that, and Zero agrees. Shin asks if he can sense people too, and Zero nods in agreement. She nervously asks if he can sense where the monsters are. Zero replies that he can't as they don't have souls. Jay is sleeping peacefully when Jong wakes him up with a jolt. He asks what happened, and Jong says that it's not the time to sleep. He says they need to go and save their friends. Back to Che, they see the elevator stopping at their floor. The elevator opens up and soldiers walk out of it. They look around and see no one. The trio have taken cover behind boxes and peek out. Kim says that it's the military and they are saved. She rushes to them, asking for help. The soldier points their gun at her and she replies that she's a school teacher. The soldier tells his teammate to scan her. The soldier scans her and it says clean. Kim asks what they are checking on her. The soldier tells her that it's part of the process. She says that it must be hard for them to believe, but they are monsters here. Those monsters killed students and other teachers too. Soldier asks if that's the case. Kim tells her students to come out. She asks them to help explain things to these nice military men. Soldier asks if there are more of them, and she agrees. Che and Fatty nervously come out of hiding. Kim says that they are her class students, and they have managed to survive so far. The scene shifts to Sion running in the woods. He pants heavily while running. Suddenly he feels that he's not out of breath anymore. He smashes a tree trunk with his hands and it sizzles from the impact. Sion starts laughing manically on his newfound power. He says that this is incredible. Suddenly, Sion's brother shows up in his imagination and he tells him not to do this. Sion asks what shouldn't he do. He tells him to look at that tree. He did that to it. He asks his big bro if he can do that. It doesn't matter how talented he is, he can't do that. If Dad sees this, then he'll love him too. Also, he's not his real brother. He's just an imagination. He doesn't have to feel guilt anymore, so he should stop bothering him. Suddenly, Sion punches himself through the chest. His big bro starts disappearing and says goodbye. Back to Che and the soldiers, they take them to basement 4. They follow the soldier along cautiously. Che asks why they are on B4 as the shelter is on B2. She asks if they are from MM. She thought her distress call was cut, but she's glad they are here. The soldier turns back and tells her to keep her mouth shut and follow them. They start following them nervously, and Fatty asks Kim if she noticed that. He asks if she saw what that yellow sign said. She replies she did, and it said incinerator. Back to Gyu, he asks Zero if he can sense 6 people here. Zero replies he did. Shin says that Zero can't sense monsters, which means they are people. They approach the shelter and Shin advises them not to let their guard down.